Chapter 318 Letter of Friendship 3. Team. HH, Thursdays, Yahiko, 6/12. Yi and Wu grinned because the letter was extremely fitting of Khan. He hadn't shown himself once when Yi and Wu had looked for him back then, and this was all he started his letter with. The letter was long, and the first section mostly asked how Yi and Wu was. Information about what Khan went through was near the end. Actually, after that day, I had to spend my days busily. I made a deal with the Devil Army. Yi and Wu's face turned stiff, eyes flashing. A deal with the Devil Army. It wasn't something to be taken lightly. Victoria said the people following them and Khan were gone when she woke up. There weren't any details about what kind of deal Khan had made with them. All he said was that there was nothing to worry about and that he was doing fine. Anyways, I left for the first time in a while to meet my damned father and heard you've been asking around for me. So I wrote this letter. But then, I also heard that you do deals here, too. Dang, I'm doing this through connections, but you're really amazing. Right. Yi and Wu lifted his gaze to look at Atran. He didn't say anything, but Atran shook his head as if he knew what he was going to ask. You already know that we're extremely secretive about the information on our customers. However, depending on the person, some constraints are ignored. Sir Khan is a royal rank, and it was fine to tell him that you had a contract with us, whereas his is a secret. In fact, we don't even know it that well. Unless Khan was stupid, he would have made a direct deal with by the table since he was trying to stay off the grid. You probably have a lot of questions, but this is it. It's like how you were hiding a lot from me in the beginning. Please understand it like that. But I'm doing fine, so don't worry, and deliver my greetings to Victoria. I'll come after I'm done with things here. Okay, stay well until then. Khan's letter ended like that. Where was he, and what was he doing? What deal did he make with the Devil Army? Why couldn't he find anything about Doyle? And what happened between the two of them? Yi and Wu sighed as he closed the letter. He didn't know if Khan really was doing well or if he just acted like he was when he was actually getting into more trouble. But it's a relief that he's able to write to me. And he learned one other thing. So Khan was the son of the Iron Lion. The mercenary clan Yi and Wu had seen in passing during the battle with Walpurgisnacht, the Iron Lion clan. He didn't know that their master was Khan's father. It wasn't necessarily a secret, but Yi and Wu hadn't looked into Khan's background, so he hadn't known. If something happens, I can look for him through Iron Lion. He hoped, wherever Khan was, he was doing well. And he became worried about where Doyle was and how he was doing. Save me, please, place, ease, he, centaurs. I've always wanted to eat them once. I heard their livers are so good. I wonder how it tastes. Half human, half horse beings. Centaurs were native to the 32nd floor. However, there weren't many, and they weren't social, so it was hard to meet them. However, because of their unmatched strength, whenever they did appear, they always received the spotlight. Nadahan was also one of those beings. When he was a teenager, he left because he didn't like the small society of his species, and he succeeded in entering Red Dragon's 81 Eyes. There was almost no one in the tower who didn't know the nickname, Red-Eyed Archer. When he returned to his homeland, he felt good about himself because of the gazes of his old friends. However, his mother wasn't like them. She kept on telling him to stop and become free. He would be in danger if he went any further. Centaurs didn't belong on the dark battlefield but in a large, open field. Nadahan just shouted at his mother, telling her that she didn't know anything. He didn't like to listen to her nagging. He was progressing well, he was successful, so why was his mother so concerned? It was stressful, and he hated it. However, the moment he was at death's door, all Nadahan could remember was his mother's concerned eyes. What she said about him returning to their homeland anytime echoed in his ears. The smiling Gluttony Emperor looked like a demon to him. Mother, I'm sorry. Kook. The Gluttony Emperor's hand dug into his left lower body. He didn't resist. The predatory aura of the Gluttony Emperor made him lose all will to fight. The Gluttony Emperor dug his head into the cut. He could see the fresh beating liver. The thick veins got in the way, but he cut them off with his canines and swallowed everything up. Even that was a delicacy for the Gluttony Emperor. The image of him eating something alive may have looked disgusting, but the two dukes protected his side without any expressions on their faces. The two dukes, Duke Tuantian and Duke Mowgli, didn't take their eyes off as Nadahan died. Bloodland suffered huge losses when Duke Ardbad and Duke Robra died at the hands of the Summer Queen. They entered an official war with White Dragon, and the first thing the Gluttony Emperor and the two dukes did was hunt the old 81 Eyes. Now that Nadahan, the old left hand of the Summer Queen, had died, the damages to both sides were approximately equal. Of course, he didn't plan on ending things like this. If he did, he wouldn't have started the war in the first place. The Gluttony Emperor was going to work with Black Dragon to bring down White Dragon. There was only one thing he wanted: eating the Spring Queen's heart. The Gluttony Emperor's desire to try dragon meat someday hadn't changed. Also, he still had a small wish to try the One-Horned Tribe even after the Martial King beat him up like that in the past. But if he ate the Spring Queen's heart, he would be able to relieve himself of both of them. Where else would there be fun prey like that? Crunch, crunch, The Gluttony Emperor slowly lifted his head after he finished eating. His face and clothes were covered in blood. He wiped his face with the handkerchief Duke Tuantian gave him and grinned. It was a smile of satisfaction after enjoying a good meal. Red energy gathered around his eyes and vanished. Open angle bracket predation close angle bracket and open angle bracket digestion close angle bracket. These skills of the Gluttony Emperor stacked up the magic power and blessings he ate into his body. Along with Batory's vampiric sword, it was among the best of the energy drain skills. Usually, centaurs don't taste good because they have a lot of fat after being pent up in farms. But this one was quite muscular and tasted good. That's a relief, sir. But it won't be as good as dragon meat. I want to eat steak made of dragon meat. And how thrilling would wine made of dragon blood be? I must eat it someday. The more he ate these delicacies, the greater his obsession for dragon meat became. It seems that isn't too far off. Duke Tuantian handed him another handkerchief. Ah, is there good news? Black Dragon said they plan on attacking mainly White Dragon. Green Dragon will also attack them, and they want us to help. Another direct attack, Well, that's fun in its own way. The struggle of the three clans after Red Dragon crumbled was still ongoing. Clans like Bloodland and Elohim were looking to interfere as soon as a chance was presented. The reason why new emerging clans could sprout up was that the large clans were focused on each other. There were great battles every day, and it was confusing to differentiate between ally and foe. However, right now, the Gluttony Emperor didn't plan on betraying them. His revenge for his subordinate and desire for dragon meat had turned to one of obsession. If he saw a chance, he needed to take it. Good, Tuantian, you focus on the upcoming fight. It'll be a true buffet. Understood? Yes, sir. Duke Tuantian, the second in command of Bloodland, left thinking of the orders he would have to give out. Duke Mowgli took his place when he left. Your Majesty, the news you have been waiting for has just arrived. News. Our close friend, the Hoarder, who apologized saying he was too busy, has finally sent a message that he wants to see Your Majesty. What? Why are you telling me that now? The Gluttony Emperor's face became flushed. He burst up from his seat. What are you doing? You should be getting ready to return to the castle now. An important visitor is coming. Then we need to prepare as such. A feast. Prepare a feast. After Yan Wu told Bloodland he wanted to visit through Atran, he visited the One-Horned Tribe. I'll be waiting here since outsiders aren't allowed. After sending Yan Wu off, Kreutz set up a light barrier and began to rest. He hadn't rested since leaving Tartarus. Yan Wu immediately went to Brahm. Do I have some dragon blood left over? Yes. Brahm looked at Yan Wu with a flabbergasted face. If you're talking about the Summer Queens, I obviously used all of it. Why would there be any left? There were many uses for dragon blood. Treasure with that much magic power wasn't common. Not only was it used to purify vigor, but it was also used to construct the outer space and different magical items. Brahm hadn't planned on using it much since it was a precious treasure. You said to use it without hesitation. That there shouldn't be anything left over when you invest in things. Of course he would be surprised that Yan Wu came to ask about it suddenly. Brahm felt like he was being questioned and felt a bit unpleasant. But Yan Wu seemed to be satisfied. So that means there's still some left. Only an extremely small amount. That's good. If you have somewhere to use it, you can give me a diluted version. Or it can even be whatever's left after you use it. Brahm realized Yan Wu was planning something again. Interest filled his face. Where are you planning on using it? To give it to the Gluttony Emperor. What? Brahm's face slightly crumpled. The Gluttony Emperor was someone who had been after Sesha. But Yan Wu wanted to give him what? Before a misunderstanding occurred, Yan Wu calmly explained his idea, and Brahm looked astonished. Then, he smirked. So you're going to give the leftover blood and get Jamshid's liquor in return? Yes, that is right. Do you know what Jamshid's liquor is? Among fanatics, it's sold even more expensively than dragon blood. Jamshid's liquor wasn't just simply wine. It had the magic power of an old king. Its value as an elixir was outstanding. But it's not even a significant amount, and you just want to give him leftovers. The value of an item is subjective to whoever is buying it. I suppose. Brahm clicked his tongue after thinking of the Gluttony Emperor's obsession for dragon blood and dragon meat. Then wait here a moment. Brahm stood up and left for his lab. When he came back sometime later, he brought a tightly corked flask. Yi and Wu caught it and looked inside. Red blood was shining within it. I diluted it and mixed it with a bunch of other stuff. I made it taste exactly like blood so that fool will like it. The Gluttony Emperor would probably still enjoy it. And this is dragon meat. I've been saving it in case of an emergency, so take as much as you want. Brahm put a big pouch on the table. Yi and Wu graciously accepted it. Thank you, they were all yours anyway. Also. Brahm's eyes flashed. Do you think it's true that they can find Jungwoo's soul? I'm not sure, but it seems it's definitely being held somewhere not in the beyond. So. You have to create Kaini as quickly as you can. Is that it? Yes. Brahm nodded his head heavily. Hades, that guy didn't leave Olympus that often, so I didn't see him much myself, but he was very prideful and had responsibility for his work. That's probably why he's still in Tartarus. Then, he narrowed his eyes. But it's a bit strange. He could have asked all of Olympus for assistance. But why? Although Hades had a strong sense of responsibility, he wasn't one to let things get this far. Was something preventing him from asking for help? It was something Yi and Wu had thought of before, so he nodded in agreement. Where I used to live, they had a saying that went like, 100 people, 100 colors. It means that all people have their individual color or problem going on in their life. There's no need to interfere with what the gods are doing. Instead, I'll focus on creating Kaini. I used to live under the rule of the principle of causality once. You don't have to lecture me. Yi and Wu and Brahm made some more small talk. Then, Yi and Wu glanced at another room. He could see Ananta sitting on a rocking chair inside. Her eyes were still blank. Could I speak with Ananta for a moment? I'll be grateful if you do. Ananta won't be bored then. He entered the room Ananta was in. There was a cute bear-patterned blanket on her knees. It was one that Sesha used frequently. It seemed she had brought it thinking her mom would be cold. Yi and Wu grinned and kneeled to be eye level with Ananta. Then, clack, he took off his mask and looked at Ananta in the eye with the same face Jungwoo had. Ananta, Chapter 319 Letter of Friendship 4. Team, HH, Thursdays, Yahiko, 7/10. Quote. She didn't move. Yi and Wu sighed. He thought she would have some kind of reaction if she saw Jungwoo's face, but nothing changed. Still, Yi and Wu continued to speak to Ananta. Even if she showed no reaction, somewhere in her subconscious, she was probably listening. And when she woke up, he hoped that she would tell him everything she had struggled to deal with. Yi and Wu was actually the one who wanted Ananta to regain consciousness the most. He wanted anyone who remembered and cherished his brother to be happy. He put his mask back on and turned around. Brahm was standing there with a bitter smile. Thank you, as always. That's what I should be saying. Are you leaving now? There's no need to spend any more time here. Sesha will be angry if you leave without saying anything. Last time, I had a hard time trying to appease her because you left without a word. Yi and Wu laughed. Please convince her we. Before Yi and Wu could finish, there was the sound of something crashing in the hallway, and the door burst open. Uncly. Sesha jumped into Yi and Wu's arms with her short legs. Yi and Wu quickly caught her in case she got hurt. Uncle, you were going to leave me behind again, weren't you? Sesha looked Yi and Wu up and down and puffed her cheeks. When Yi and Wu had his mask on, it meant that he would leave soon. That's. Yi and Wu broke out in a cold sweat, not knowing how to excuse himself. You left me last time, too. How can you do that to me? Sesha, you're gonna play with me a bit, right? Or. Sesha looked down at the ground with a sad face. Do you not like being with me? Quote. Yi and Wu sighed. Who would be able to act coldly in front of such a cute niece? He took his mask back off. No, of course not. Then what should we do? I want to do what you taught me last time. Hopscotch. That was fun. Sesha broke out into a huge grin, like all her worries had disappeared. Then, she grabbed Yi and Wu's hand and pulled him out to the yard. Yi and Wu followed her, shaking his head. He heard that the boys in the village were crazy for Sesha. He felt like he knew why. Brahm smiled as he watched Yi and Wu and Sesha leave. He loves his niece too much. It was rare to see such a touching scene in the tower. Ananta was watching them silently. Her eyes focused and blurred again. Kreutz clicked his tongue. Tartarus, the one-horned tribe, and now Bloodland. When did he make all these connections? He didn't say anything because he promised to follow quietly, but he was surprised to be visiting Bloodland. He was curious what kind of relationship Yi and Wu and Bloodland had. If it's a good relationship, the regiment will have to revise our relationship with Bloodland, too. Kreutz and the rest of the fantasy regiment's judgment of Bloodland was simple. Crazy psychos. They were better than the lunatic devil army, though. And of those in the Bloodland, many were reasonable. The fantasy regiment had some ties with people in Bloodland. However, the reason why they thought poorly of Bloodland was simple. There's no knowing what their leader, the Gluttony Emperor, is thinking. Bloodland was modeled after an empire, so the emperor had the most authority and power. The people were deeply loyal to the emperor. The direction of the clan was decided by how the emperor felt. The Gluttony Emperor was the most traditional and had the most power out of all the leaders within Bloodland. His will was the will of the empire. Because of that, the Gluttony Emperor wasn't someone they could admire. He was always impulsive. When they were working, things would go wrong because he suddenly changed his mind, or when the clan was fighting a battle, he would sometimes disappear because he was hungry. At the same time, he was powerful enough to be one of the 9 kings, so there was no one to stop him. The only person who could was probably the martial king. The Gluttony Emperor was childish. A child who quickly lost interest in things and quit in the middle. But he also has a horrifying side to him, too. He's really crazy. And Yi and Wu was entering such a place of his own volition. He was worried, but the gears in his head were spinning. The regiment leaders had a deep interest in Yi and Wu. He said he needed to have the hoarder by his side all the time. He even said that the place he needed to be in was next to the hoarder. If Yi and Wu entered the fantasy regiment, he would be given a high position. And according to his relationships, the political standing of the fantasy regiment would be influenced. Isn't there a word for people like that? Kreutz remembered something his subordinates had said about people who had a lot of friends and hung out with many people. I thought he was an outsider. But he's totally an insider. You have entered the outer space, land of red sunsets. A pink-orange dusk greeted Kreutz when he entered the portal after Yi and Wu. Then, on a red carpet, soldiers began to blow into their trumpets and tap on their drums. They were all wearing reddish armor. Yi and Wu's eyes widened at the fancy reception he hadn't expected. It wasn't because he was surprised but because he was flabbergasted. When had they prepared something like this? Bloodland was famous for having different welcoming ceremonies for different visitors. Out of the 4 different welcoming ceremonies they had, red, white, blue, and black, they were showing Yi and Wu the highest, red. It was usually what they did when a leader of one of the 8 large clans or someone of equal status came. And they're doing that for me. It was true he had tricked them to gain their trust, but he didn't know they held him in such high regard. Aside from that, even if the Gluttony Emperor liked him, he should have treated Yi and Wu with indifference since he was the leader of such a large clan. Of course, this kind of welcome wasn't bad for Yi and Wu. If they accepted him like this, it meant that he could take more from them. Oh ho, who's this? If it isn't my close friend, the hoarder. A fancy palanquin came out of the door to the imperial castle. About 100 slaves were lifting it. Behind it, Duke Tuantian, Duke Mowgli, and about 36 marquises followed like servants. Wah! A violent aura that reeked of blood whirled around them. The fat Gluttony Emperor wobbled up from his fancy chair. He was smiling kindly, but there was blood on his chin. It was a gruesome image to anyone who would have seen it. Nice to meet you, sir. Yi and Wu didn't blink and bowed. No, he tried to. The Gluttony Emperor suddenly jumped down from the palanquin. The ground shook, and his chubby flesh jiggled. He wobbled over and held Yi and Wu up. What are you doing, greeting a close friend like this? Your reputation is my reputation. Are you planning on making others look down on me? The Gluttony Emperor patted Yi and Wu's shoulder and grabbed his hand. Anyways, don't just stand there and come in. We have many things to talk about. Do you know how long I've been waiting? The Gluttony Emperor forced Yi and Wu on the palanquin and looked around. He glared at the military marching band and the welcoming committee. What are you doing? A special visitor has come. Greet him heartily this instant. They marched on with trumpets blaring in the background. Ha ha ha, it's not much, but enjoy. The gluttony emperor burst out laughing and told Yi and Wu to sit down at the long table. This isn't much. Yi and Wu was in disbelief. The fruit wine, drake steak drenched in honey, and precious delicacies covered the plates. Red fire danced on the tips of the golden candles. Everything Yi and Wu had seen on the way here was extravagant. Servants in the castle all bowed to Yi and Wu when they saw him, and the soldiers greeted him even more dramatically than the welcoming committee had. However, the dining room was worse. Yi and Wu was sitting at the head of the table next to the gluttony emperor. The gluttony emperor signaled for him to eat. His crescent-curved eyes were uncomfortable to look at. He couldn't refuse the offer. He had been hungry anyway, so he slowly moved his hand to the spoon in front of him. Even if there was poison in it, he didn't have to worry. His residual poison blood could resist most poisons. The moment he tasted the soup, Yi and Wu's eyes widened. This is... The gluttony emperor burst out laughing. Kahahaha, how is it? Isn't it incredible? Our chef, Duke Tuan-Tien, went through a lot of trouble to make it. Come here. Thank you. I hope our visitor enjoys it. Duke Tuan-Tien had a bright smile in his white chef's outfit. Yi and Wu laughed. Crazy bastards. They're putting out soup with caviar of a soul shark as an appetizer. The soul shark was a rare monster on the 68th floor that moved freely between reality and the imaginary world. It only appeared once in 10 years, so it was hard to find it. It was famous for the materials it provided. However, the real reason why the caviar of the soul shark was famous was that it had a great amount of holy power. Normal players would be able to control their magic power better just by eating it. Here, they had crushed it and made it into a soup. Also, the milk of the Turanian mountain sheep that was also in the soup was famous for increasing the limits of one's vitality. This soup, in itself, was an elixir people would rush to devour. About 1 year of the clan's budget would have been used to make this soup. Yi and Wu carefully drank the fruity wine that was next to him, wondering what it was. A fresh taste wrapped around his tongue. Although he only had a sip, his magic power increased rapidly. Magic power has increased by 8. Magic power has increased by 6. It was definitely mixed with ambrosia, the fruit of gods that grew only on the 71st floor. Yi and Wu opened his draconic eyes to see the other fruits. Feng Wang soup, triple head troll's meat, golden apples honey, mermaid king tail steak, rare divine wine. ... Yi and Wu was so flabbergasted that he couldn't even laugh anymore. And, Kreutz nodded heavily to himself, looking at Yi and Wu. He's being received in such a grandiose manner. He's definitely an insider. Chapter 320 Letter of Friendship 5. Team, HH, Thursdays, Yahiko 8/10. Kahaha, I feel full watching you eat. The gluttony emperor patted his own stomach, looking at Yi and Wu's empty plates. Yi and Wu thought it was funny. Hilarious, he snorted. The gluttony emperor was full just by watching him. Actually, he had eaten most of the food here. His stomach, which had grown twice its original size, was proof of that. Of course, Yi and Wu had eaten quite a lot as well. The gluttony emperor may have been someone he needed to kill someday, but he had no reason to refuse something nice. Thanks to that, Yi and Wu was able to taste many elixirs he didn't even know about. There was the soup created using a Feng Wang, the apple that increased your lifespan with just a single bite, the mermaid meat that increased your stamina, and the divine wine that kept ghosts away, among many others. Yi and Wu saw his stats increase at once. And lastly, try this. It'll be perfect for cleansing your palate. It was a golden wine in a small flask. It was beautiful, like waves reflecting the morning sunrise. This was the most unique out of all the foods he had enjoyed, so Yi and Wu examined it with his draconic eyes and was taken aback. This is... The gluttony emperor chuckled. Ooh-hey-hey, you recognized it right away. You are correct, it is Jamshid's liquor. It's liquor that the king of 10,000, who is as cruel as the vampiric lord, made himself. I also only enjoy it when special visitors come. ... Yi and Wu didn't have anything to say. The gluttony emperor was giving Jamshid's liquor as an after-meal treat. He was probably giving it because he considered Yi and Wu a precious visitor, but Yi and Wu felt like his efforts to get it were in vain. What are you doing? Quickly, drink it. It's nice. The gluttony emperor tipped the flask back and had a happy smile. His layers of skin shook. Yi and Wu looked at him for a moment and brought the flask to his mouth. He could feel the blessings in his body try to circulate. Boo. Open corner bracket yes, sir. Before Jamshid's liquor was absorbed into his body, he told Boo to store it somewhere else. You have obtained one of Jamshid's liquor. Currently collected. 3/5. Thankfully, a message saying that the liquor was separated into the subspace popped up. Yi and Wu sighed, and he looked at the Gluttony Emperor with a calm gaze. He was still trembling from the aftereffects of Jamshid's liquor. It was like looking at a high drug addict. Yi and Wu guessed the difference in power between him and the Emperor. He could see open spaces through his wide-open draconic eyes. The flaws were tied up in a complex manner. It was full of imperfections. What if he ran at him with vigor? The thought suddenly occurred to him. The Gluttony Emperor's obsession with dragon meat began a long time ago. That was why he had begun to pressure his brother way back when. That's also why he sent Viscount Lao. He was someone who Yi and Wu had to catch someday, like he had caught the Summer Queen. He felt an impulse to do it as the Emperor showed that attitude of his. But, Yi and Wu slowly regained control of his emotions. The Gluttony Emperor wasn't someone who could be defeated that easily, and even if he succeeded, the real problem followed after. Outside, there were the 2 dukes, the 36 marquises, and the 108 counts. Behind them, there were tens of thousands of soldiers. He couldn't avoid all of them and run away. It wasn't time yet. And, the Gluttony Emperor opened his eyes. Not knowing what Yi and Wu was thinking, he smiled with happy eyes. It's so fun to be able to eat with a cherished friend. I'm the thankful one, and this is a present I'm giving to your majesty. Yi and Wu pulled out a box and handed it to a servant next to him. The Emperor rubbed his hands together and licked his lips. Goodness, you didn't have to do something like this. You don't have to worry about it, but since you're offering it to me, I won't deny it. What had Yi and Wu brought? The Gluttony Emperor opened the box with an expectant face. Soon, his eyes widened and his chin fat trembled. This is dragon meat and dragon blood. As you can see, it's the Summer Queen's. Boo, Kwang. The Gluttony Emperor burst up from his chair. His flushed cheeks were filled with anticipation. The dragon meat and dragon blood he had wanted so much were in front of him. And it was from the last dragon, the Summer Queen. Tuan Tian, quick, Kwang. At the Gluttony Emperor's beckoning, Duke Tuan Tian hurried. Ha ha ha, today is the happiest day of my life. When will I be able to experience a day like this again? The Gluttony Emperor put down the plate he had been licking and trembled. Yi and Wu laughed. He didn't like seeing the Gluttony Emperor so happy, but the things he gave the Gluttony Emperor were useless to him. He had only brought dragon meat scratched off from the ribs, and the blood was only what was left over after they were done using it. It was hilarious to see him be so happy with what was merely trash. Moreover, he was someone who ate sole shark caviar or fenghuang soup until he was full. That was why Yi and Wu saw that the value was subjective to whoever bought it. He couldn't help but laugh. Just then, red light gathered in the Gluttony Emperor's eyes and vanished. His large stomach waved grotesquely like a snake trying to digest what it swallowed whole. Then, what? The pocket watch shook. Yi and Wu put his hand inside of his jacket and touched the pocket watch. It was different from the vibration he felt when he heard his brother's voice. It's similar to the time when it came into contact with the despair and grief of the Black King. That meant, does the Gluttony Emperor have something to do with the pocket watch? Just then, the 2 voices of the Cyclops rang in his head. Open hollow corner bracket master, that's. Open hollow corner bracket, it's a soulstone. Ha, were they that common? What? Yi and Wu's eyes widened. Why was the soulstone coming up here? At that moment, Yi and Wu was able to share the vision of the 2 Cyclops. There was something bundled in the chest of the Gluttony Emperor. The dragon meat that the Gluttony Emperor had swallowed was being taken apart inside him and circulated throughout his body. Open hollow corner bracket, it looks like Eula. Open hollow corner bracket, but he's not even using 5% of the soulstone. Is he just barely using Lucille's authority? HMPH. That's like putting a pearl necklace on a pig. Brontes and Sterapis didn't stop criticizing the Gluttony Emperor. However, Yi and Wu was able to learn something from what they said. There wasn't just a single thing or two that was off about the Gluttony Emperor. It wasn't easy to tell where his power came from. But if he was borrowing that strength, wouldn't there be a way to defeat him? The Gluttony Emperor had an authority that could digest the blessings he swallowed and turn them into his power. Of course, Yi and Wu didn't have to worry about it because he wasn't going to give the Gluttony Emperor his power, but the authorities were still annoying. Unless one was a strong player like the Martial King, one wouldn't want to go against the Gluttony Emperor. Thinking about it now, the Gluttony Emperor was treated as the weakest and most powerless king in the history of Bloodlands leaders. And then he suddenly became stronger. It made sense if he really had borrowed the strength of the Soulstone from Lucille, like what the two Cyclops said. And if it was true, he might have discovered a way to bring the Gluttony Emperor down. Yi Yanwu hid his sharp gaze. The Gluttony Emperor. How should I bring him down? Yi Yanwu had picked his next target to be the Gluttony Emperor. The Gluttony Emperor had finished digesting, and he began to speak in a serious voice. I'll swear on my name. If you need anything in the future, let me know. The entire empire and I will forever be your friend. He looks like he's high. Yi Yanwu nodded. It seemed appropriate to bring it up now. Then, may I request something from you? Go right ahead. I said I'm your friend. Did he know how dangerous what he said was? Can I have some more Jamshid's liquors? The liquor. Did you like it that much? Actually, I have to use it for something personal. Yi Yanwu explained that he needed it for a weapon. How much do you need? I need about 2 barrels of it. To be exact, only 2 cups were needed, but he wanted to get everything he could. The Gluttony Emperor didn't respond for a while. He said he would do anything, but giving Jamshid's liquor was something else. He had to struggle to get the Jamshid's liquor as well. Actually, it was so precious that he always drank it with careful hands, but when Yi Yanwu said to give it all up, he felt his heart fall to his feet. What happens if you don't have it? Yi Yanwu answered with a slightly exhausted gaze. I might be in danger. It would be harder to help you in the future. Of course, this is only a request, so you can deny it if you want to. How can I force you to give me something? Yi Yanwu spoke like it was okay to deny his request, but the Gluttony Emperor had his reputation as an emperor and couldn't take back what he said. And in this dining room, many subordinates were watching him. They looked at him with assurance that he would give Yi Yanwu the liquor. Your Majesty. Just then, Duke Tuantian carefully approached the emperor and spoke in his ear. Yi Yanwu's eyes flashed. He wondered what the emperor would say next. You said you needed the liquor, right? He narrowed his eyes with a cough. But as you know, Jamshid's liquor is extremely precious to us, and I cannot give it without permission from advisors. Is that so? Oh well, however, it's not impossible. Let's make a deal. A deal? You were also attacked by that damned Summer Queen on the 27th or 28th floor, right? Yi Yanwu realized what the emperor was going to say. Yes, then work with us. We're actually working together with Black Dragon to take revenge for Duke Ardbad. Help us. Yi Yanwu's eyes widened. Work with Black Dragon, to catch White Dragon. I won't be of much help. Don't be like that. Do you think I don't know you split apart Triton alone? And you have those friends in the shadows of yours. He knows about Shannon and the others. The Gluttony Emperor spoke like it was nothing, but Yi Yanwu didn't miss the nuance in his words. It was incredible that his spirit familiars hadn't been caught until now. With everyone focused on him, his hand was beginning to be shown. The Bloodland had probably looked into Yi Yanwu, too. And the Fantasy Regiment, the Gluttony Emperor eyed Kreutz. And even, in that moment, he wasn't a picky wealthy man but the emperor of a country. With where your teacher is, with the one-horned tribe. Just then, a violent aura spread through the hall. That was easy. Under the mask, Yi Yanwu was smiling brightly with his fangs bared. His enemies would be fighting each other. If he could get the Jamshid's liquor just by lifting a single finger, it would be a huge profit for him. The only thing worrying him was the participation of the one-horned tribe, but the Martial King would take care of that. Also, it's not weird if something happens in the war. Yi Yanwu had already started to calculate how to take the Gluttony Emperor's life in the confusion of the battle. Shannon began to hum to himself. Open corner bracket stabbing in the back, what a fun song, musical note. Chapter 321 Letter of Friendship 6. Team. HH, Thursdays, Yahiko 9/10. Why do you have to leave so hurriedly? We still have a lot to talk about. Why don't you leave after a break? The Gluttony Emperor looked at Yi Yanwu with regret. He usually hated taking even a few steps outside of the castle, and seeing how he came outside of the castle himself, Yi Yanwu could tell he was sincere. No, I'm grateful for the exemplary treatment. I barely made enough time to come here. I'll make some more time for my next visit. Pahahaha. Well, your life is busier and fiercer than anyone else's, and that is your charm. I'll cheer you on from far away. The gluttony emperor patted Yin Wu's hand with his own. When he licked his lips, he looked like someone who was losing out on something delicious. Just then, Duke Tuantian brought a chest over and silently held it out to Yin Wu. This is a gift that His Majesty is bestowing upon his friend. Yin Wu looked at it and asked the gluttony emperor. What is this? Try opening it. The gluttony emperor smiled with a face filled with his large pores. Yin Wu took the chest from Duke Tuantian and carefully opened it. With a clack, a sword that was about the length of an arm was there. The blade was bent, and the jewels on the sword made it look more like a sword for decoration instead of for battle. Moonlight of Blessed Ones. Category: Dagger, Amulet. Rank: S. Summary: the sky always covers the sky and shines on those walking in moonlight. The path that you walk will always be blessed with bright light. Moonlight leading luck. A great amount of luck will be given to whatever the owner does. The percentage of the owner's success will increase as long as it doesn't harm the rules and laws surrounding it. It will raise attacking and defensive power. When creating something, the item will be blessed. The concept of luck wasn't that clear in the tower. There were always unknown variables that would occur with whatever people did. However, because it raised the percentage of success directly, the Gluttony Emperor's gift was extremely priceless. Didn't you say you were working hard on something? I don't know what it is, but I hope you succeed. This item is something I cherish, too. Wear it around your neck as a necklace. It'll be very effective. Kahaha. Yin Wu closed the chest, looking at the bright Gluttony Emperor, and bowed with gratitude. What a giving tree. Is this a bribe to talk to the Martial King about him? With the alliance against White Dragon, the Jamshid liquor, all kinds of elixirs, and now the moonlight of Blessed Ones, Yin Wu was beginning to feel sorry for the Gluttony Emperor. Not that anything will change. Open corner bracket. That pig guy needs to know what you're thinking. Shut up. He ignored Shannon's provocative remark and left the Bloodlands outer space. Kreutz carefully approached Yin Wu and asked him a question. Are you planning on allying yourself with the Gluttony Emperor? The alliance with Bloodland and Black Dragon. If this became known, the tower would be flipped on its side. There would be a force to oppose the Great White Dragon. Also, it hadn't been long since the River of Souls incident. Also, Yin Wu's decision could change the outcome of the war. There wasn't anything to say about the One-Horned Tribe, which was in a special relationship with Yin Wu, and the souls he commanded were destructive enough to stand against an entire emerging clan. On top of this, the Fantasy Regiment considered Yin Wu close to it. Anyone allied with all of them would have a dramatically greater amount of forces. Yin Wu was a threatening storm whose small actions may cause commotion in the tower. Of course Kreutz would be sensitive about this matter. He needed to know how close Yin Wu and the Gluttony Emperor were. He was feeling rushed, which was unlike himself. But, Yin Wu didn't say anything and just looked at Kreutz. He had an indifferent gaze. Kreutz suddenly came to attention. He sighed. Sorry, that's none of my business. In fact, it was only the Fantasy Regiment who considered them close, and that wasn't the case for Yin Wu. Rather, he had already done a lot by revealing his location to a stranger. But if he was acting that close, there was a need to put some distance between them. Kreutz realized he just broke his promise and apologized, leaving on the Flying Dragon. He was going to come back after organizing his thoughts. Yin Wu looked at Kreutz's back and confirmed his quest window. Materials to construct: Tiny. Apotus scales 45/45. Magic sword stone 2/2. Jamshid liquor 12/5. Adamantine nova 0/1. Now, only the adamantine nova is left. Yin Wu narrowed his eyes. I still collected them faster than I thought. If he had searched for them one by one, it would have taken him at least a few months. It could have taken even longer, or he might have not been as successful in obtaining them. Time was of the essence, but a lot of the materials were from the higher floors. Still, since he had by the table's help, he was able to progress much faster. Atran said the adamantine nova was in the process of being procured, so he would be able to have it soon. Shouldn't the negotiations be done by now? Yin Wu blew his consciousness into Frisia's mirror. Atran. Above the bead, a hologram popped up. Atran turned around with surprised eyes. Only half of his body was turned around, and he wasn't looking at him properly. He looked like someone who had been caught hiding something. Open hollow corner bracket W, what? What was he doing? Yin Wu looked at him suspiciously. He usually spoke formally to his customers while also calling them pushovers, but he looked rushed for some reason. I was wondering how the adamantine nova was going. You said they were in the final negotiation stage. Open hollow corner bracket. It's going fine, so don't worry. I'm busy right now, so I'll contact you later. Atran quickly ended the call. He had tried to hide it, but he couldn't avoid Yi and Wu's sharp eyes. It looks like he has a black eye. Was he beat up somewhere? Yi and Wu narrowed his eyes. It was evening when Atran showed himself again. He didn't come through the messaging device but through the portal. And for some reason, his shoulders were drooped, like he had suddenly become depressed. What's wrong with your eye? He even had a patch on one of his eyes. I fell tripped. Atran couldn't meet Yi and Wu's eyes and turned his head around. Yi and Wu looked him up and down. Were you beat up by someone? Why would I be beat up by someone? I'm Atran. I'm a big fish by the table who doesn't have much longer to go until the flower rank. Who would dare touch me? Open corner bracket. He was beat up. A lot. Open corner bracket. It's not easy to touch a mysterious merchant, though. Shannon and Hanryong looked at Atran, who was jumping up and down, and nodded. At the same time, they were surprised. Mysterious merchants always lived in danger. It was because of the thieves who mugged them. So while mysterious merchants created unions for safety, they were famous for using mercenary clans or the bureau to get revenge. Also, although Yi and Wu considered Atran a loser, he was actually well known in his field. Still, the fact that they had touched him meant that they were confident or someone skilled. Yi and Wu lightly sighed. I guess you were beat up after chasing down some deal. Are you some kind of psychic? Atran looked at Yi and Wu with a scared face. Open corner bracket. He does have some harsh feelings towards our master. Open corner bracket. It seems like he failed the negotiations. Yi and Wu snorted and ignored what Shannon and Hanryong were gossiping about. Actually, it was easy to guess what happened if one thought about it a bit. Possessors of adamantine nova had to be strong. Atran, who went crazy for money, had probably stuck on the person like a leech even after they denied his offer. And as for what happened after, it was obvious what had happened. Players mostly had cold or rushed personalities. It was rare to see someone nice. Atran sighed, thinking he couldn't hide it anymore. Fine, you're right, the negotiations fell through. What did they say? That they would never sell it. Atran frowned. At first, I thought they were just bargaining. So I continued to raise the offer, and then, I was hit with a pipe. Arg, that granny. Atran muttered to himself that there was never a need for violence and that she wasn't able to get married at that age because of her violent impulses. He seemed to have been wronged. Pipe, granny. Yi and Wu tilted his head in curiosity. Who was the owner? I can't tell you that. It was by the table's rule to keep information about its customers a secret. Do you really need that adamantine nova? If you have time, I'll try to gather adamantium and ask for it to be made. No, I need it now. Adamantine nova wasn't an item that could be made so easily. First off, it would take forever just to gather the adamantium, and it would take years to condense it. Even if an artisan got to work on it, it would take at least a year. But the situation in Tartarus? They didn't have that kind of time. Just what kind of quest did you receive to need that kind of stuff? Atran hadn't heard about what Yi and Wu was planning on making, so he sighed. Are you interested in selling information about the owner? I'll try convincing her. No, why, can I not purchase people's information? That's true, but it's a bit complicated. Atran frowned. First, the owner is one of the top VIPs of our union, and she pays us every year not to sell her information. Such VIPs among our customers are rare. By the table had a strong influence in the entire universe, not just in the tower. If she was a big fish in that group, is she one of the 9 kings? Or someone at that level? He was suspicious. And more than anything, there was the most important reason. The owner is the best friend of our master. Just telling you this is, you know. It meant he was forbidden to talk about it. Yi and Wu nodded and clicked his tongue. He didn't know he would be tied up because of the adamantine nova, which was something he thought would be easiest to get. Then I'll have to talk to Frisia herself. What? Hey. Fearing that Yi and Wu would meet his boss because he was incapable, Atran shouted. Walk. However, Yi and Wu was already calling Frisia through the Jade Mirror. It was the first time he contacted her after receiving the Jade Mirror. Atran's face turned pale. Open hollow corner bracket Kane. Why are you calling me in the middle of the night? She wore a wooden mask on her face. Short red hair that looked like it was on fire. Frisia must have been in the middle of feeding her white wolf because she turned her head with a piece of meat in her hand. Why, you really contacted her? Atran covered his face with his hand. His incompetence was going to be delivered directly to his superior. And on the other hand, he wondered how many customers had Frisia on the speed dial. Yi and Wu was probably on the same level as the owner of the adamantine nova. Actually, while Atran was in charge of Yi and Wu, he didn't know exactly what Yi and Wu's status was in the union. I think you know why I contacted you. Open hollow corner bracket. If it's about the owner of the adamantine nova, I cannot tell you. So she knew. Open hollow corner bracket. This is her condition. Aside from her being my personal acquaintance, we can't lose someone like her. Close hollow corner bracket. Still, there's a saying that goes like this. There's no deal that can't be done. Open hollow corner bracket. There's no deal that can't be done. Frisia repeated what Yi and Wu said and smirked. Not because it was funny but to tell him to show her what he had. Open hollow corner bracket. That's true. Then what is the item you have in mind? Also, the amount of money that's going into sponsoring you is the greatest we have ever given. You know that most items won't even be considered, right? From the construction of the outer space to Brahm's experiments, Yi and Wu was like a money-sucking leech to buy the table. The reason why Hades is missing, what's happening in Tartarus, the situation with the titans and giants, and what I'm trying to create. Don't you think that sounds good? Frisia's eyes widened. It wasn't clear because it was through a hologram, but he could feel he had piqued her interest. Open hollow corner bracket. Please continue. Yi and Wu began to speak about what he saw and heard in Tartarus. From what Yi and Wu saw, the rebellion of the titans and giants was priceless information that could be sold at an expensive price. It was something Olympus and the gods and demons of the 98th floor didn't know about. One may think that what went on in the heavenly world wouldn't matter to the players in the lower world. However, gods and demons were beings who composed the laws, and they were crucial to the tower's system. Of course, depending on what happened to them, players would be affected, too. If this information was dealt with well, by the table could earn a huge profit. Furthermore, military intel was what merchants all wanted. Atran, who had been listening next to him, widened his eyes. Just what did this human do that he not only shook up Red Dragon but the world of gods, too? Open hollow corner bracket. So that's what happened. Frisia stroked her chin and nodded. Like what Yi and Wu thought, it was definitely priceless information. However, open hollow corner bracket. However, it's still not enough. Do you have anything else? He didn't think she would come out this expensively. Yi and Wu clicked his tongue and added what he had saved for the end. If I can create Kaini, I'll obtain the title of artisan. Don't you want to be the first to receive an item created by an artisan? Open hollow corner bracket. It's tempting, but we have a customer like that. Also, you're not an artisan yet. What if it's an item that's created from the help of Brahm, Heneva, and even these beings? Yi and Wu snapped his fingers. Behind him, the Cyclops Brontes and Sterapus appeared. The two giants frowned, displeased, but they had to listen to Yi and Wu, given the current situation. Frisia's eyes widened when she recognized the two Cyclops. Then, she grinned. Open hollow corner bracket. I guess it can't be helped. If it's an item touched by two blacksmiths who are equal to Hephaestus, no, his were teachers, then I'm tempted. So how about an exclusive supply agreement? That's not enough, but we can give you priority. This time, Yi and Wu stepped back. When Yi and Wu repeated what she said to him, she clicked her tongue internally. But this deal wasn't bad. Open hollow corner bracket. The owner of adamantine nova. The name he heard was familiar. Open hollow corner bracket is someone named Anastasia. Chapter 322 Letter of Friendship 7. Team, HH, Thursdays, Yahiko 10/10. Anastasia. Had she felt Yi and Wu's shock? Frisia was surprised by his reaction. Open hollow corner bracket. Do you know Fox? I mean, Anastasia, Fox. It was a perfect name to describe Anastasia. Victoria's teacher, Anastasia. When he first looked for Victoria, she had spoken to him harshly, telling him not to return. He could vividly recall the danger he was in when he confronted her. Open hollow corner bracket. I remember Victoria's disciple was once a sadhu. And so was the Iron Lion's sadhu. Then is that when? Yes. Frisia burst into laughter. Open hollow corner bracket. It's a small world, but no one is as closed off from the world as she is. But you know her. It's impressive for a player who just entered the 30th floor. I don't exactly know her. Open hollow corner bracket. I suppose. She's extremely wary of others. But she does all kinds of audacious acts behind that facade. Frisia narrowed her eyes. Open hollow corner bracket anyways, this is it for our deal. Our trade with Anastasia is finished, too, so you have to take care of the rest. Thank you. Open hollow corner bracket for what? This was all just give and take. Frisia was about to end the hologram session but then remembered something and turned to Yi and Wu. Open hollow corner bracket oh, right, and here. Is there something else? Open hollow corner bracket YUL Mrs. Yu. I'll set up a meeting for you, so meet him then. Of course, you'll have to return safely from Tartarus. YUL. It was a name he was glad to hear. Open hollow corner bracket no. Before that, there's something you'll have to go through. I hope things work out. Frisia left mysterious words before leaving. Yi and Wu quietly put the jade mirror back. I'm not going to be fired, right? Atran was concerned about his customer being taken from him after hearing the news that his master's disciple would come soon. Yi and Wu went to the entertainment district in the outer section of the tower. Although she might not be here anymore, Frisia had said even she didn't know where Anastasia stayed. Anastasia was a free spirit. She moved carefully even when making deals. Yi and Wu just went to where he had first met Anastasia. Last time, the roof was blown off because of the fight. He thought he might have been able to find her if he looked around the building. Isn't that? Yeah, that mask. He looks like the hoarder. Unlike last time, there was almost no one who approached Yi and Wu. There was no one in the tower who didn't know about him. He was the face of the 6 new stars, no, the 5 new stars now. They said only ruins were left in his wake, so he was treated like a moving disaster. Yi and Wu ignored the gazes and arrived at his destination. The building must have been restored because prostitutes and those trying to hire them were bustling around. But the moment Yi and Wu appeared, they disappeared instantly. When all the customers disappeared, the manager inside the building came running out frantically. He had just been about to lay with someone he'd been buying small presents for. He had come out in such a rush that his pants weren't fully pulled up. When he saw Yi and Wu, he gasped. He remembered the commotion from a long time ago. Thinking of the damage from back then, his hands began to tremble. He hadn't expected him to come back. Is Anastasia here? And no. Yi and Wu pulled out the magic bayonet and split the air in front of him. Then, the roof was blown away. The customers and prostitutes on the higher floors who had wanted to make love while looking at the scenery below them all hid in fear. So she's not here. Yi and Wu glanced inside and quickly turned his body elsewhere. The manager, who had been standing there blankly when the roof went flying off again, quickly grabbed Yi and Wu. From what he knew, Yi and Wu wasn't someone to let things end like that. He wasn't called a walking disaster, the coming of the martial king's youth, or split personality for nothing. What will you do? Yi and Wu replied with a question. What are you going to do? Sorry, why aren't you looking for her? Quote. Business will be hard for you if you don't. Yi and Wu swung his magic bayonet at the building next to it. Quack. Once again, the roof flew off into the distance. When the building shook like it was going to crumble, customers and prostitutes who barely got their clothes on and staff members quickly ran out. She's not here either. Open corner bracket kya. He acts exactly like his teacher. Open corner bracket. It truly is better to shake things up if you can't find what you're looking for. Yi and Wu moved on to the next building. Shannon. Open corner bracket. What? I think you've been acting out more frequently these days. Open corner bracket. Hee. No way. It's all in your head. Yi and Wu shook his head. He didn't know why Shannon was becoming more sly as time went on. But at the same time, it meant that they were becoming closer, so he wasn't completely against it. Boom. As each building collapsed, people affiliated with shadowy organizations chased after Yi and Wu, not knowing what to do, and belatedly realized what Yi and Wu was trying to do. Yi and Wu was bringing down all the buildings in the entertainment district. Anastasia was a famous VIP among the people who lived here, and she stayed here most of the time when nothing was going on. He thought that Anastasia would come since he was causing so much ruckus. At the same time, it was a warning for the people who lived there to go find Anastasia if they didn't want the district to be ruined. Kwong. What are you doing? Look for Ms. Anastasia. Anastasia had saved many of their lives, but they had to bow in the face of danger. As each of the buildings was crushed, the drug addicts came to attention, and the prostitutes ran around busily. What is going on? A loud voice echoed from above. The people who had been running around stopped and bowed their heads. Yi Yanwu stopped swinging his sword and turned around. Anastasia was standing gracefully on top of the cafe on the 5th floor. Her eyes were half closed, and the clothes she was wearing only covered her upper body. Her lower body was completely exposed. One beautiful child, who followed her quickly, covered her, and she looked around. Then, she found Yi Yanwu. "Kiddo, did you do this?" Anastasia looked annoyed. She hated being woken. Falling asleep while high with beautiful children was the only source of joy in her life. Of course she was angry. "Do you know who I am? And yet, you still did this." Yi Yanwu narrowed his eyes. What was she talking about? She was acting like she didn't know him. He was about to say something when a beautiful child whispered something in Anastasia's ear. She realized who Yi Yanwu was and sobered up. "You're the one who was looking for Victoria." Her face crumpled. "But why are you here? I thought I told you to never come back." "This time, I'm not here to see Victoria." Then, open hollow corner bracket the adamantine nova. "You have it, right?" Yi Yanwu spoke with open speaking so only she could hear. "How did you? Oh, you must be behind the one who kept on asking for it." Anastasia remembered Atran and frowned even more. "No, aside from that, how did you know I have it? It should be a secret. That wolf bitch sold me out." She was furious after realizing the situation. This is why lowly merchants. They only know how to flatter people. Anastasia promised to pick this up with them the next time she met. There was nothing worse than having your information available for everyone to see. "Leave. I already said this multiple times, but I'll sell this over my dead body. I need the item." "Oh, what are you gonna do with it?" Yi Yanwu looked up at her and pulled out his sword from his pocket. "What is it? You want to burn everything to the ground if we don't talk." A smile grew on her lips. Walk. White smoke surrounded Yi Yanwu, and he began to gather energy to himself. The moment Vigord marked Anastasia as a target, a violent aura whipped around them. The aura of the two high rankers caused earthquakes. While the entertainment district was being destroyed. "I tried to forgive you because you were the friend of my foolish disciple. But if you want to die, I'll kill you." Anastasia flicked her finger. Magic power raced towards Yi Yanwu. At the same time, his shadow opened, and souls came out to block her. Gu. In the middle of the great fight, boom. He quickly ran at Anastasia. If he couldn't make a deal, he had to steal it. There was no other way. He needed the adamantine nova to make Kaini and unlock clues about his pocket watch. If he stepped back here, he didn't know how long he would have to wait. He swung Vigrid. Smoke rose from where wave of fire struck Anastasia. Chapter 323 Letter of Friendship 8. Anastasia stretched her hand out in the air. The smoke around her scattered, and a new fox fire was created wrapped around her. Quack 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 quang. The wave of fire exploded before it could reach Anastasia. The building she had been on couldn't endure the impact and completely crumbled. Sparks flew, and the heat became a storm, covering the area they were in. S****. Run away, Ms. Anastasia and the hoarder are fighting. The locals on the streets quickly began to flee. To normal people, a fight between high rankers was equivalent to a natural disaster. It was because no one knew how much damage the battle would cause. Some people lost their businesses and stores because of the fight, but Yi Yanwu and Anastasia weren't the types to care. Blow. Just then, the farthest right tail of Anastasia flamed green. The monstrous energy around Anastasia strengthened. Hoo. She lightly blew on her fingers, and the energy flowing around her spewed air bombs that were as big as a person's head. The fox fire flared again. In the areas where fox fire touched, strange phenomena occurred. The space would shake or suddenly become cold. Yi Yanwu pulled the wave of fire back to him and combined it with a black aura. He swung it at Anastasia. Qua qua qua. The air bombs were countered each time Vigrid was swung. The monstrous energy that leaked out became fox fire again, but it couldn't pierce through the wall of souls protecting Yi Yanwu. The second soul, Pupapung, Kiak, the mass of souls that was nearly a single entity at that point shifted from inside and outside Yi Yanwu, energizing him and protecting him at the same time. It was a new interpretation of the martial arts taught by the one-horned tribe. Walk. Soon, he split through the smoke and reached Anastasia. He raised Vigrid. His target was an arm or one of her tails. He thought it would be enough to scare her off. However, she didn't avoid it and just snorted in amusement. At the same time, her second tail lit up, and she swung the pipe in her hand. Quang. Vigrid and the pipe clanged against each other. It wasn't the sound of metal striking metal. It was the sound of an explosion. The buildings around them were swept away as heat waves covered them, but the two didn't stop there. Quack quack wong. Strange letters shined on Anastasia's pipe. Yi and Wu immediately realized it was a special artifact that Victoria made for her teacher. However, he couldn't understand what the runic letters on the pipe meant. They looked like runes, but they weren't. Were they letters from another world? Yi and Wu realized the letters facilitated Anastasia's use of her unique power. The brighter the pipe shined, the brighter the green fire on Anastasia's tail became. Anastasia threw down her pipe on the floor with a huff. Just then, the gumiho that was faintly standing behind Anastasia moved. Then, what is that? The gumiho pounced exactly where the pipe was thrown on the ground. Yi and Wu felt an aura from Anastasia that was different from what he had felt so far. The space around him began to shake. Yi and Wu quickly spread his wings of fire apart and activated blink simultaneously. Like how the pipe shined brilliantly, he was nearly able to use the magic he learned from Victoria to transform his wings of fire into an artifact or a skill. Pat, pat, pat. Yi and Wu landed relatively far away from where Anastasia had been. And when he saw what happened where he had just been, his eyes widened. You have good instincts, kiddo. Anastasia snorted upon seeing him. Everything around her was destroyed. Everything around her was leveled. Only Anastasia was left. The monstrous energy emitted from the broken space showed what she had just done. A charm, open hollow corner bracket that is a monster that's been dormant for at least 1,000 years. Nemesis's voice rang inside his head. Open hollow corner bracket a being that became one with a player and turned into a legendary beast after 1,000 years. But since it had monstrous energy, I think it's most appropriate to call it a great monster. It was a warning not to fight with Anastasia. Open hollow corner bracket at the very least, it's on the level of the 9 kings. Even if my previous master were to come back, it would be hard to guarantee victory. Unless it's the martial king or the summer queen. I think it'll be difficult. The monstrous energy around Anastasia was growing darker, and the illusion behind her even was clearing up. It was like the gumiho was standing right on top of Anastasia. The more the number of lit fox fires on her tails increased, the clearer her monstrous energy was. Open hollow corner bracket we barked up the wrong tree. I think we should step back. Even though Yi and Wu was becoming stronger at a quick rate, he definitely wasn't on the level of the 9 kings yet. And if she was comparable to the martial king and summer queen in terms of strength, he had no chance of winning. However, no, there is a way. Under the mask, Yi and Wu grinned. What are you mumbling about? Anastasia must have read Nemesis's presence inside the philosopher's stone because she frowned and flicked her finger again. Her 5th tail caught on fire. Quack quack wong. Countless air bombs came from above. When the gumiho shook its tail, strong winds blew over like tornadoes. The fox fire turned the ground black. Space was crumbling in front of him like a clear layer of ice that had been someone hammered. Tentacles pierced the ground and wiggled around. Monstrous energy was a power that one borrowed from a greater being. The inexplicable phenomenon precisely spread around Yi and Wu. He would have to be crazy to fight her head-on. If so. Yi and Wu's eyes flashed coldly. Little by little, like how your clothes end up getting drenched in a light drizzle. Draconic eyes. Extrasensory perception. Along with his consciousness, 2 skills combined as one and began to stack their flaws in between them. Wind path. Gust of wind. Yi and Wu forced himself into it. Once again, he ran towards where Anastasia was inside of the fox fire. He avoided the flaws that looked difficult to deal with. He was confident no other player could match his speed. Open hollow corner bracket what are you trying to do? However, to Nemesis, Yi and Wu looked like he was taking on something he couldn't handle. Also, only 4 tails were on fire. It meant that she still had more hidden power. When the tails light up, do you see? Open hollow corner bracket what? Oh. Nemesis realized what Yi and Wu was saying and glanced around. He had been focusing on just Anastasia, so he didn't look around him. Open hollow corner bracket the amount of souls has increased. Right, just then, the 6th fox fire tail was ignited. The monster Shannon was taking care of melted and was absorbed by Anastasia. Open hollow corner bracket she has so much monstrous energy. She doesn't have holiness or divine power, so it was hard for her to coexist with all of it inside her body. That's why her appearance isn't her actual body but one of a player's. The monstrous energy Anastasia gathered in 1,000 years was amazing. However, because there was so much, it wasn't easy for her to handle it, so she usually left a part of her monstrous energy sealed outside of her body. Yi and Wu was going to take advantage of that. If they fought based on endurance, Yi and Wu was more at an advantage. It was because the Philosopher's Stone endlessly supplied him with magic. On the other hand, for Anastasia, the longer she used her monstrous energy, the harder it was on her body. What you sensed is her true power when all her tails are lit. Right now, she's in a weak state. Open hollow corner bracket, but she still seems stronger than you. So that's why we'll use this method. Nemesis nodded in acceptance. He couldn't help but remain worried. Open hollow corner bracket, even with that, you won't be able to drain all her energy. Are you gonna go for a blind spot? Yes. If he faced her head on, he would die. He quickly reached Anastasia and attacked her with Blink and the 72 Bian. Like this. Quack. Kiak. You dare. There was a deep injury on Anastasia's right leg. Blood spattered into the air and disappeared. Instead, a long mass of flesh extended from her right wrist. She was hurt by a human who hadn't even lived 100 years. She couldn't let herself be humiliated like this. However, Yi and Wu had already anticipated her movements and escaped far away, only to come back and cut her thigh. The Gumiho cried at the sky. It was only a small injury compared to its large body. Anastasia tried to catch Yi and Wu, but Yi and Wu escaped like a rat every time. She was furious seeing Yi and Wu escape again and again. It seemed like she would have to light up her sixth tail. Just then, now, Yi and Wu didn't miss the timing and activated Blink. He landed right in front of Anastasia. It all happened so fast that Anastasia didn't see that Yi and Wu had come near her. It was because she didn't know about time difference. The black aura exploded once more. Anastasia's left arm was cut off. He wasn't able to do as much damage as he hoped, but one tail of the Gumiho was almost completely cut. Yi and Wu activated Blink again. Hit and run. He was going to escape. At that moment, the seventh tail lit up. Walk! Quote exclamation mark quote. He froze at the feeling. He couldn't move. The air around him was stopping him. Then, quang! Blood poured from his mouth, and he landed on the ground. The impact must have been so great that all the bones in his demonic dragon body were broken. He tried to heal himself with regeneration, but Anastasia was already standing on top of him. You dare to put me in this state? Open hollow corner bracket, you dare to put me in this state? In the space where two faces overlapped, Yi and Wu was the receiver of a growingly angrier face. Open angle bracket, monster eyes, close angle bracket. The red eyes were holding Yi and Wu in place. I can't take this anymore. No more going easy just because you're my disciple's friend. Open hollow corner bracket, I can't take this anymore. No more going easy just because you're my disciple's friend. There was something Yi and Wu had missed. Anastasia was Victoria's teacher. She would know Victoria's secrets. So, open hollow corner bracket, so. Her naked body could be seen through her loose robe, but it looked fierce with all the veins popping out. Die now. Open hollow corner bracket, die now. With her declaration of death, Anastasia brought her hand down towards Yi and Wu's mask. Open corner bracket, Amir. Fox. Dares. Just when Boo was about to open his eyes. That's enough, isn't it? Stop it now. A large wolf head appeared next to the Gumiho. At the same time, someone grabbed Anastasia's hand. Anastasia saw Frisia wearing her usual wooden mask. She narrowed her eyes. Wolf, don't get in the way. Stay there. I'll take care of you next. Open hollow corner bracket, wolf, don't get in the way. Stay there. I'll take care of you next. That's why I came. Because I'm sorry. Don't you feel like you're looking at your younger self? Anastasia shut her mouth. Then, she turned her eyes to look at Yi and Wu, who was under her left arm. His eyes seemed both intense and desperate at the same time. She had the same eyes in a time she couldn't remember too well anymore. She cursed and let him go. Bitch. Open hollow corner bracket, bitch. Frisia chuckled. Foxes are also dogs. Chapter 324, Letter of Friendship 9. Victoria shut her eyes, holding a letter in her hands. Are you doing well, Granny? I mean, my lovable lady. The letter began playfully. On the 5 mountains of penances, she had hated this tone, but now, she missed it. It was a letter that Khan had sent through by the table. Over the last year, she had suffered from depression as she thought of Rebecca and Khan, who had sacrificed themselves for her. However, with the help of her teacher, she was barely able to pull herself together to return to her usual self. But then, Khan's letter had arrived. At first, she was glad. He said he was doing well and preparing to climb the floors again. But the more she read, the more something felt off. It was definitely Khan who wrote the letter. However, something was strange. She couldn't put it into words. It was like he's saying goodbye. In the letter, he sounded like he was saying goodbye to her. When she looked over the letter again, there was nothing about him coming to meet her when he had the time. Victoria touched the edges of the paper, thinking something would be hidden within it. She couldn't feel anything. Even when she cast magic on it, there was no reaction. Or maybe, she created an orb of fire in her hands and began to burn the letter. As the black ashes blew around, the phenomenon that came to be was. Victoria's eyes widened, her eyelashes fluttered with shock. Just then, Anastasia must have come because Victoria could feel from the magical wavelengths that the space was opening. Victoria quickly waved her hand to clean up the ashes and opened the door. The bright smile on her face returned. Master, you've come. However, Victoria couldn't finish. There were visitors following Anastasia, and they weren't the beautiful children she usually moved with. Rather, they were faces Victoria knew well. Although, technically, she didn't know their faces because of their masks. One of them was Frisia, and the other, Kane. Victoria ran to Ian Wu and hugged him. Have you been well, ma'am? Why, it's a relief you look more comfortable now. Ian Wu hugged Victoria back and patted her back. Victoria burst into tears. She felt sorry for turning Ian Wu away when he had come the previous time. She did send her studies, but she wanted to apologize for her actions that day because they had continued to weigh on her. But he had come here himself, so she was grateful and apologetic. Bad girl, your master came, but you don't see that I'm hurt. You go crazy for guys. Victoria forced down the urge to say it wasn't something Anastasia should have been saying and turned to look at her. She belatedly realized that the robe her master enjoyed wearing was burnt and torn and that her naked body was visible. Did something happen? You noticed so quickly. What are you doing? Bring a new one from my room. And a pipe with some tobacco. Bring it to the guest room. Yes, ma'am. Victoria slightly bowed and spoke to Ian Wu. Let's talk later. I have something to ask you. Something to ask him. Ian Wu had a curious face, but he just nodded. Yes, ma'am. What are you doing? Stop dilly-dallying. Yes, ma'am. Seeing Victoria quickly run into another room, Anastasia huffed. She seemed displeased with Frisia and Ian Wu's arrival. You two follow me, too. After Frisia appeared, Anastasia recalled her monstrous energy and led Ian Wu and Frisia to her residence. Her residence was different from the commonplace architecture in the tower. Most buildings were built high into the sky like castles, but here, there was a cluster of all kinds of buildings. It was like a manor. Anastasia changed into the robe that Victoria brought and crossed her legs, sitting at the head of the table. Her robe was very revealing, but she didn't seem to care. Of course, Ian Wu didn't look at her body. There was steaming tea sitting atop the table, but he didn't touch it either. I don't like you. Just then, Anastasia suddenly spoke up. Ian Wu cast Anastasia a questioning look. I don't like that gaze of yours. Quote. Does the thing on your lower body work well? Ian Wu realized what Anastasia was saying and snorted. You're not my type. Your type, all men. You're quite arrogant. Anastasia's eyebrows twitched, and Frisia clicked her tongue. Why don't we stop talking about strange things? Both of you are so annoying. Anastasia frowned and put the pipe in her mouth. When she exhaled, white smoke filled the room. Frisia turned to speak to Ian Wu. Even though she acts like that, she'll explain things to you properly, so don't worry. Thank you for your help. It's nothing. I received something in return for it, and since I know Anastasia well, I thought it would be better for me to come and interpret what she says for you. It seemed more like she was trying to finish the deal with Ian Wu and appease Anastasia, but whatever her purpose, it was true that Ian Wu had received Frisia's help, so he thanked her. But Frisia, yes, you seem to have known Anastasia for a long time. We passed by each other when we were younger. According to what Nemesis said, Anastasia was a 1,000-year-old Gumiho. But if Frisia knew her well, is Frisia also her age? Wouldn't it be impolite to ask that of a woman? Frisia spoke with a twinkling laugh. She had a wooden mask on, so it was hard to see what she was thinking, but Ian Wu felt chills run down his spine when he saw her talk. Just then, Anastasia put her pipe down and changed the subject. Enough with the small talk. Like I already said, I cannot give you that, no matter what you give me. If you want to take it, you'll have to do it over my dead body. Anastasia glared at Ian Wu. It was like the foxfire was igniting on her tails again. I would like to know the reason why. I don't know why you have to know the reason when the owner says they don't want to sell it, but fine. Since you're so curious, I'll show you. Anastasia stood up and moved a folding screen aside. A plain, white wall was revealed. But when she put her hand to it, the wall began to creak open. There was a flight of stairs that led underground. Follow me. Anastasia didn't wait for Yian-Wu and Frisia's response and headed down first. There were multiple large iron doors in the path, and Anastasia used her monstrous energy every time to open the doors. There were magic equipment, traps, and even some sleeping monsters and creatures Victoria had set up. If an invader entered, they would probably attack. There were so many of them. If I had to fight these, it would have been really dangerous. It occurred to Yian-Wu that he might have been foolish in fighting her. The monsters here were probably all a part of Anastasia, and if she recalled her power, he couldn't imagine how much more powerful she'd be. The Summer Queen popped into his head. If the two fought, it would probably be an even match. Anastasia was hiding even though she had this power. What was her goal? This is where it gets real. Don't be swept away. I'll kill you without any hesitation then. She warned Yian-Wu coldly and opened the last door. Demonic energy blew over to where they were. Yian-Wu clenched his teeth. His souls blocked the energy in front of him while the despair and grief of the Black King trembled. Pretty good. Anastasia judged Yian-Wu with the pipe still in her mouth. She had seen all kinds of skills throughout her life, but Yian-Wu's skill of working with souls was interesting to her. However, Yian-Wu didn't have the mind to read her gaze. What is this? Spite. Yian-Wu turned to Anastasia. Spite, the vestiges of the ones who used to live in this damned tower. The space that he followed Anastasia into was filled with all kinds of weapons. Swords, sabers, spears, armor, helms, gauntlets. They were all hung up on the wall. The black energy that wafted up from them took the form of a person and disappeared again. Weapons with strong vestiges are bound to have souls of their own. These things are traded at a high price in the tower. He nodded. The same went for Vigrid and maybe even his magic bayonet. But do you know what happens when the vestige keeps growing? They become monsters. Yian-Wu thought of what he had heard from Earth a long time ago. Old items became monsters with time. These monsters want to swallow their masters and have their freedom. But what do you think will happen when monsters who can't think rationally are given freedom? Blood will be spilled. Correct. Everything would become chaotic. Anastasia went in even further. There, even stronger weapons and armor were exuding spite. I didn't want to see that. So I kept everything I saw under lock and stuffed it all in here. Hoo! White smoke spread around them again. The smoke turned into a dark gray when it combined with the spite. But these things are always trying to escape, so there are limits to locking them up. That's why they have to be tied up. And the center of that is. She paused. The underground wasn't as big as he thought. That, he could see a black bead on the wall. It shined like a star. Adamantine nova. He looked at it blankly because of the powerful aura that was coming from it. The adamantine nova is the pillar of this weapons storage room. And giving that to you? Nonsense. Then everything here will go crazy. They have a lot of grudges against me, so they'll want me to pay for it first. She had a bitter smile. You won't tell me to give it to you now, right? That's basically my life. If you get it now, off. Chapter 325 Letter of Friendship 10. Anastasia isn't a just and kind person, I mean, a fox. But the reason she took in the artifacts is because of something that occurred a long time ago. Back then, she was desperate and sorrowful. After being kicked out by Anastasia, Frisia stopped Yian-Wu and explained why Anastasia couldn't let go of the adamantine nova. She said the artifact storage room was everything to Anastasia. What happened back then? Since it's not a part of our deal, I cannot tell you. I only told you this much because I hope you'll understand her. Yian-Wu nodded. All people had backstories. Naturally, a Gumiho who had lived 1,000 years would also have one. It was probably hard for a normal person to understand. Of course, it's not like she isn't gaining anything from it. The artifacts themselves are high-level monsters, so they can be tools to extract monstrous energy from. But if you try to take the adamantine nova, things will become dangerous. Correct. Ha! Yian-Wu wiped his face with his hand. His thoughts were in a jumble. Even if he wanted to take the adamantine nova, with Anastasia revealing everything like that, there was no way to take it. And it wasn't like there was anyone else in the tower who had it. If there was, Frisia would have mentioned that person already. I guess I have to make it myself. How much time and resources would it take? With Tartarus about to fall any second, time was of the essence. Even if the two Cyclops helped, could he do it in a short amount of time? I need to ask for help from Heneva, Brahm, and the head elder, and even Victoria. If they all worked together like when they made the Philosopher's Stone, wouldn't they be able to see results more quickly? Yi and Wu began to brainstorm how to finish the process as soon as possible. But why isn't Victoria coming out? Victoria had said she would meet him outside, but she hadn't shown up yet. Just then, a portal opened in front of Yi and Wu. He turned, thinking it was Victoria, but Anastasia popped out with an enraged face. Then, Kwang, Anastasia suddenly grabbed Yi and Wu's neck and threw him to the ground. Yi and Wu didn't have any time to react. Behind Anastasia, all 9 of her tails were lit up. Monstrous energy simmered in the air. As the atmosphere crumpled, a powerful pressure pushed down on Yi and Wu's chest. Where did you hide it? Anastasia, shut up, Wolf, I'm talking to this bastard right now. Anastasia shouted at Frisia not to interfere and looked back at Yi and Wu. Tell me, where did you hide it? What? Don't pretend like you don't know. Anastasia's eyes flashed wickedly. I'm talking about Victoria. She disappeared with the adamantine nova. If not you, then who else could have done it? Yi and Wu felt blank, like he had been hit hard in the head with a hammer. She disappeared. Victoria, why? That thought occurred to him first. Just now, when he had seen her, she was glad to see him and acted like she wanted to tell him something. Answer me. Open hollow corner bracket answer me. However, his contemplation was quickly interrupted. The Gumiho overlapping with Anastasia was growling. It acted like it would swallow him up if he didn't answer her. Yi and Wu suddenly felt annoyed. He was frustrated that he couldn't obtain the adamantine nova, but now, he was being suspected of stealing it. He was infuriatingly irritated. With the feeling of something retching from his chest, something popped out. A part of the demonism from his subconscious appeared. Let go. It was the low warning voice of a beast. The air around Yi and Wu changed instantly. Anastasia furrowed her eyebrows, realizing that something was strange. You, open hollow corner bracket you. I said to let go. Yi and Wu grabbed Anastasia's arm with glowing eyes and started to remove it from his neck. Then, the monstrous energy of the Gumiho and the magic power from the demonism clashed, causing the atmosphere to shake up and down. It was different from the fight in the entertainment district. If he was this powerful, why had he lost? Anastasia's eyes filled with murderous intent. A mere human dared to resist her. It was unpleasant. Also, she didn't like how the shadow behind Yi and Wu started to tremble like crazy from earlier. The monster portents, death lords, and even the lich inside. They were all annoying. Thinking it would be better to rip him to shreds, she raised her nails and attempted to rip apart Yi and Wu's face. Shiver. Chills ran down Anastasia's spine. Beyond the mask, there was something in Yi and Wu's eyes. It was a deep, sticky abyss that made her feel like if her soul was caught, she would be trapped forever. And the thing that was hunched over inside looking at her. The moment she met its eyes, Anastasia felt fear for the first time in hundreds of years. It was a great being that considered a 1,000-year-old Gumiho like her as prey. Open hollow corner bracket stop acting out. You're only a pet of Rhea. That's enough of your cute tricks. Close hollow corner bracket. Quote exclamation mark quote. Open hollow corner bracket. Anastasia stiffened at the voice that pierced her head. Just then, Yi and Wu moved her arm to the side and stood up. Don't grasp at straws. Victoria's disappearance has nothing to do with me. It was a completely different tone from the voice that had just rung out. Anastasia looked at Yi and Wu with a blank expression. Yi and Wu narrowed his eyes, not knowing why. She was the one who wanted to look at him with the look that he was giving her. He didn't seem to know about the voice. How could he not know about it? Anastasia shook her head. Whatever was in Yi and Wu's eyes, it was dangerous. Also, it had said that she was Ray's pet. That was a secret that she hadn't told anyone, not even Frisia. It meant that it recognized her. Anastasia decided to take a step back. She stood up and adjusted her clothes. Do you really not know anything? Victoria was a special disciple of hers, so she had to check one more time. Yi and Wu shook her head. Anastasia frowned. Then, where had her lousy disciple disappeared to? A shadow appeared on her annoyed face. Currently, the artifacts room is in that state. Yi and Wu followed Anastasia into her residence. The garden was a lot different from before. A dark fog swallowed half of the yard in the building. Above it, black smoke wafted up. The barrier around the garden was keeping the black smoke in, but no one knew when it would break. and multiple monsters were already fighting inside of the black smoke. The spite that leaked from the artifact and Anastasia's subordinates were clashing. This was all the result of the adamantine nova disappearing. Open corner bracket, a few of them seem pretty strong. They won't fall short of me. There are even a few that are stronger. As Shannon said, he couldn't look down on the spite. It won't be hard to tie them down. I can just keep them in the barrier. But then, I won't be free to do anything. And one or two of them might leave secretly by mistake. Anastasia put her pipe in her mouth. She must have bitten down on it hard because her teeth marks were left on it. So if there's something you remember, let me know. Victoria isn't fine yet. If she has the adamantine nova in that state, she's in danger. Her voice was filled with concern for her disciple, unlike her normal self. However, Yin Wu didn't have any clue about where Victoria went. Just then, he suddenly remembered something Victoria had said. Let's talk later. I have something to ask you. Then, she added something. You received a letter, right? He hadn't been able to respond at the time, but what if there was a secret related to that? Did Victoria receive a letter? A letter? Anastasia looked at Yin Wu like he had asked something ridiculous. Yin Wu assumed that Victoria hadn't received anything, but the Black Lion's son sent a letter to Victoria. Is he still alive? Anastasia knew about Victoria's guilt for Khan and frowned. Can I see that letter, too? Yin Wu gave his letter to Anastasia. Biting her pipe, she examined it. The contents are normal. There doesn't seem to be any spells or charms on it. Frisia tossed a fine gold powder on the letter. It was a method she used to uncover any strange phenomena in the letter, but nothing happened. She shook her head. It's just a normal letter. So I guess she didn't leave after seeing the letter. If she left to find the Black Lion's son, there's no reason for her to take the adamantine nova. She had left with the adamantine nova without telling her teacher because something urgent had come up. He opened his draconic eyes when he got the letter back. There was no way he could find something that Anastasia and Frisia couldn't. However, something's up, definitely. Yin Wu thought that there was a secret to the letter. If there wasn't, Victoria wouldn't have disappeared like that. Maybe. Yin Wu ignited holy fire and burned the letter. What are you doing? Anastasia shouted in surprise, but the ashes of the burnt letter shook and landed on the ground. Something was written in the air. Help me. That was enough. Ulryong. She waved the pipe in her hand. Smoke was sprayed out and landed on the black ashes. All kinds of information entered her head, including where she was. Follow me. A Gumiho appeared where she had been. Her red monster eyes were flashing. The Gumiho began to dash away, not even looking back at Yin Wu or Frisia. White Wolf. Frisia quickly summoned the White Wolf, and Yin Wu spread his wings of fire apart. The Gumiho was extremely fast despite its large size. It was like looking at Shukuchi, one of the 3 signature skills of Alpharon. Normal people wouldn't have been able to follow it. The White Wolf was right behind it. Yin Wu was on its back with Frisia for some time. How did you figure it out? She was talking about the hidden information in the letter. How had Yin Wu been able to find something that neither she nor Anastasia had seen? It's a Bian. A Bian. Are you talking about the ancestors? Frisia seemed to want to know how Yin Wu knew about it, but she didn't ask. On the other hand, Yin Wu's eyes darkened. What happened? Help. The contents of the letter were fake, so Khan could send it without arousing any suspicions from those binding him. Then what was he asking to be saved from? The Devil Army. That was all he could think of. Or, is it something related to Doyle? It could be related to Doyle, whom he hadn't been able to find anything about. Or both. He turned to Frisia. Frisia, where was the letter sent from? She shook her head. I cannot tell you. The price. Even if you want to pay, nothing can be done. Whatever you offer, you won't be able to pay the price. Frisia was very firm. There was nothing she could say. It meant that unlike when she revealed Anastasia's identity, the one behind it this time was greater. However, Yin Wu thought it was a message that Frisia was trying to deliver to him silently. Then I'll change the deal. Yes or no? Please tell me which one. Frisia didn't say anything. Is it the Devil Army? I cannot tell you. Is Khan staying there? I cannot tell you. Is by the table also making deals with the Devil Army? I cannot tell you. Thank you. Yin Wu became certain. It is the Devil Army. If not, she would have said that it wasn't. She could easily say that within the conditions of the deal. What he didn't know was why the Devil Army was involved in this. None of what they did was predictable, and there were no patterns to their actions. He didn't even see them trying to avenge themselves when they were humiliated. But they had suddenly appeared somewhere unimaginable. He didn't know what they were planning. However, he was sure of one thing. Khan was Yi and Wu's friend. He couldn't ignore the fact that he was in danger. Even if the creation of Kaini was pushed back. They ran for a while. A few barriers appeared to block them, but they were easily crushed by the charms of the Gumiho. Talk. The Gumiho suddenly stopped running. It was looking at the center of a mountain. Yi and Wu and Frisia turned to look in that direction, too. There was a small shrine far away on the mountain. It wasn't conspicuous, and there didn't seem to be many visitors. The Gumiho and the White Wolf took a few more steps to enter the shrine. There were 7 stone statues near the entrance. They were all bigger than the Gumiho or the White Wolf. They didn't match the theme of the small shrine. Each statue of a dragon, roc, or lion, among others, was standing on its 2 legs, and 2 monkeys in various forms were looking in the direction of their party. On the far left, the biggest stone statue faced them, and it became obvious who the shrine was for. Could it be? Yi and Wu lifted his head opposite of the bull statue, feeling anxious. There was a great monkey statue as well. It looked like a visitor of the temple, a friend of the other statues, or like it was challenging the king statue, the bull. The appearance of the statue was familiar. It was like what he saw in the Monkey King's palace. It was the Monkey King. Yi and Wu realized what the other statues stood for. The 2 monkeys were the Monkey Yun King and the Monkey King, only the yin is the same as Sun Wukong. The statue at the very top was the oldest of the other statues, the Bull Demon King. 7 knights, also called the 7 Demon Kings, they were 7 holy beings who had caused chaos alongside the Monkey King. Yi and Wu was standing in the middle of the shrine, no, the temple, of the beings of the Jia sect and Chan sect that even gods were scared of. Also, Urng. The pieces of the Ruyi Bang in Yi and Wu's breast began to tremble. As if welcoming him. Chapter 326 Descendants of the Monkey King 1. Team. Thursdays, Yahiko 4/10. The Temple of the 7 Demon Kings. He had never seen anything related to them after the Monkey King's palace, so he couldn't help but be surprised. Anastasia and Frisia must have felt something as well because they turned back to look at Yi and Wu. Frisia's gaze was especially locked onto Yi and Wu, as if she had discovered something unexpected. However, Yi and Wu didn't have the mind to worry about them. Boo. Open corner bracket yes, sir. You are sharing the vision of Boo, soul of the witch doctor. Different vestiges began to flood his mind. Blood sword. This is enough with your acts. Damned bastard. Escaping all the way here. It won't go according to your will anymore. I'll avenge the grudges of my comrades. Khan. The first thing he saw from the vestige was Khan. However, he was different from the Khan Yi and Wu knew. The Khan in Yi and Wu's memory always had a relaxed smile on his face, but in the vestige, Khan had ice-cold eyes with a violent aura lashing around him. He had so much blood on him that his armor, clothing, and even the sword he was holding was dripping blood. Blood Sword. No nickname suited him better. The players circled around Khan had enmity and wariness in their eyes. What happened? Yi and Wu narrowed his eyes. From what he knew so far, Khan had moved in secret all this time. Yi and Wu thought the Devil Army had ordered him to do so. However, the enmity of the players in the scene seemed abnormal. They appeared to be looking at their enemy. It was a murderous aura that couldn't be summoned on impulse. As if proving their relationship, Khan snorted at the other players. How funny. What kind of? You guys are like me. And what? You want to avenge your comrades? How about being more honest to yourselves? Khan raised a corner of his mouth and held out his hand. A shining gold piece of metal rested on his palm. You guys just want this. The chests of the players around Khan trembled. Through their clothes, a ray of golden light was shining. Urng. The golden pieces all woke up as if they wanted to become one. Pieces of the Ruyi Bang. Yi and Wu was silently shocked, looking at the pieces of metal Khan and the other players had. Was he hunting descendants of the Monkey King all this time? Khan's Ruyi Bang piece was noticeably bigger than the other players. There was no way he had found a piece that big, which meant that he had taken pieces from other descendants. Yi and Wu also had a piece of the Ruyi Bang, but he hadn't met any descendants of the Monkey King yet. He thought there were 2 reasons why that was the case. There weren't many descendants yet, or they had created a secret society among themselves. It seemed like both were right. Then let's begin. Khan took back his Ruyi Bang piece and kicked off from the ground. Blue aura whirled around him like a tornado and created a giant storm. Kwak kwak wong. And the 72 Bian. It seemed like Khan had learned the 72 Bian in the Monkey King's palace and made it his. Then, the scene changed once again. After the rough fight, Victoria appeared, holding the adamantine Nova preciously in her arms. She looked around with sad eyes and disappeared through a portal again. The vestige ended there. Yi Yanwu swept up his hair. His eyes were dark. All kinds of thoughts ran through his head. Did you see something? Anastasia asked with her pipe in her mouth. Yi Yanwu nodded silently, looking at the smoke that was spreading around them. The 5 mountains of penances. Pat, chase him. He's currently injured. He can't be far. Don't lose him. We can't let others get him. The magic tower has to get him. Countless players and clans were chasing after one person in the wooded forest and green mountains. The mountains of penances. It was a difficult stage because all senses would be blocked, but they seemed unaffected. The person who was avoiding their chase was Khan. Just how much blood had he spilled? Footprints of blood were left wherever he went. Just a little more. Khan clenched his teeth. If I do just a little more, I can find Doyle. This is the 20th floor, the gate of the 5 mountains of penances. The moment Yi Yanwu arrived on the 20th floor, he could feel that something was different in the air. A heavy and simmering air. Goosebumps rose along his skin just by breathing it in. It was the same feeling as when he was back in Africa. Yi Yanwu made sure he was on the right floor. There were multiple player bases along the mountains and hills. There were thousands of players. And all of them were quite skilled. It was a sight that Yi Yanwu would never have imagined he'd see on the 20th floor. Wondering what was going on, he looked back at Frisia. However, Frisia was silent, with a calm look in her eyes. He couldn't see her face because of the mask, but the moment he saw her tranquil eyes, he realized something was definitely going on. Frisia had a knowing mien about her. Bian studies. She spoke suddenly. Yi Yanwu narrowed his eyes. What's that? The area of Bian is the greatest among magic, spells, alchemy, and charms. It is the path to become a divine, good, being. Because it's also called a mysterious field of study, some people call it strange studies. In fact, many players want to learn Bian. Yi Yanwu realized what Frisia was trying to say and widened his eyes. You're correct, Bian studies has appeared. The discoverer is Blood Sword Khan. And right now, rumors of it have spread, which is why many groups are fighting over it. Quote exclamation mark quote. Yi Yanwu whipped his head towards the direction of the mountain. Bian studies. There was no doubt it was the 72 Bian. Yi Yanwu already knew that Khan was using the 72 Bian. But he had been found out and was being chased by other players. Something was off. Why now? Did something go wrong while he was fighting with the many descendants of the Monkey King? There was no way that everyone here was a descendant of the Monkey King. And the clans, reasons for it is the slaughter of Blood Sword. Slaughter. Yes. Recently, the Blood Sword attacked a clan called the Crossian family. Not only did he kill the adults of their clan, he even killed their children and the cattle. Many players are furious because it was such an atrocious act. Yi Yanwu knew the Crossian clan well. They were an affluent family based on the 41st floor. Their ancestor had been a player, and they were now natives who influenced other players. He had attacked such a place. According to Frisia, the people chasing after Khan were those who witnessed the destruction of the Crossian family. Allied forces of the Crossian family and those involved with them were chasing after Khan while desperately trying to get revenge. Moreover, one lucky descendant of the Crossian family who had survived put a hefty bounty on Khan's head. Players began to chase after Khan like sheep. And what? You want to avenge your comrades? Yi Yanwu thought of the vestige that he had seen in the temple of the 7 demon kings. The multiple players who had been furious at Khan, and Khan, who had laughed coldly at them. Of course, it's not just the revenge of the Crossian family that's motivating them. In the process of running away, Khan had shown the many skills he was hiding. Of them, Bian studies had stood out. It was the 72 Bian. Players who couldn't grow anymore or wanted more strength found their new goal. And they even have a reason for it, too. Frisia's words trailed off. Right now, her eyes pierced through Yi Yanwu's mask. The Blood Sword Khan is the common enemy. Her gaze was asking as Yi Yanwu was going to do next. Khan was in danger. However, Yi Yanwu was rushed for time with his business in Tartarus. She was asking whether he would focus on creating Kaini or help Khan, who he had been searching for all this time. If he helped Khan, he might become the common enemy as well, and there would be problems with carrying out his plans. Did you already know? However, because he couldn't make a hasty judgment, he glared at Frisia with malice. From when I delivered the letter. Frisia nodded. Yi and Wu clenched his teeth. That meant Frisia had just been watching everything despite having known the entire situation. She probably even knew why Victoria had disappeared, but she hadn't said anything. Anastasia bit down on her pipe with an annoyed face, like she was familiar with Frisia's attitude. She was a businesswoman down to the bones. Yi and Wu didn't say much and raised his hand. Nike. Blue holy fire flared up and Nike appeared, flapping his wings. I'll leave it to you. Open hollow corner bracket okay. Nike soared up to the sky, flapping his wings. Yi and Wu could see Nike's vision through their connection. Nike's senses were better for searching for someone than his consciousness. Are you going to save Khan and Victoria? Frisia looked at Yi and Wu with a strange look. I've experienced a similar situation in the past. But there was only one decision I could make back then as well. Yi and Wu thought of when Khan and Doyle were being held by Orangdan. There was only one choice for him. His brother said that he was his hero. He wanted those words to hold true even now. If he left Khan behind and chose Kaini to save his brother, would his brother be happy after learning what happened? He didn't think so. He had to save both his friend and brother. I see. So that is your answer. Frisia seemed to be smiling strangely for a moment, but Yi and Wu didn't notice. He was looking down at the mountain through Nike's shared vision. On the second mountain, a cliff was crumbling with a rough explosion, causing a landslide. There. Anastasia must have felt the same thing because she turned into a gumiho and began to dash in that direction. Yi and Wu spread his wings of fire and quickly followed. Chapter 327 Descendants of the Monkey King 2. The second mountain, where sight and hearing were blocked. Open hollow corner bracket sacred red tree. Why don't you stop now? I think you've been loyal enough to Blood Sword. The players surrounding Victoria shouted through consciousness. This was a stage where all your senses were closed off. Only skilled players who could use consciousness could pass this stage. Their numbers were small, but each and every one of them was outstanding. Nonetheless, Victoria just smiled coldly. Open hollow corner bracket loyalty. Stop talking about useless crap. There's only one thing I'll do here. Her aura flashed. Open hollow corner bracket. Do you want to die here? Or do you want to take a step back? Spark. Powerful pulses of magic power sparked around Victoria. The object in her hands spun like a top as the storm around her became more fierce. Open hollow corner bracket adamantine nova. The faces of the players who recognized it turned hard. That was the problem. That was what was tying them down right now. Adamantine nova was a strong magic power source in itself, but it could also be used as an amplifier. If it was in the hands of a monster, it could have great monstrous energy, and if it was in the hands of a magician, they were presented with great magic power. Victoria was such an outstanding magician that she was called Sacred Red Tree, and she was the disciple of an artisan. What would happen if such a skilled person had the adamantine nova? Quack. Open hollow corner bracket S**. It's another magic power storm. Open hollow corner bracket get down. Sparks flew out around Victoria, and the waves of magic power shot outwards. The players who had been trying to corner Victoria quickly covered themselves with barriers or tore scrolls to escape. The magic power storm swept everything away. The trees, grass, and even the players who hadn't been able to avoid it. Open hollow corner bracket what the? Open hollow corner bracket no way. Everyone gulped at the sight. All of them were famed in their fields, but they were nothing in front of Victoria. However, some considered it an opportunity. Pat. After a magic power storm of such a scale, there was a required cooldown time. They planned to attack Victoria then. Open hollow corner bracket humph. Victoria just snorted when she saw them and poured her magic power into the adamantine nova. Suddenly, rune letters scattered from above Victoria's head. A permanent magic power mechanism. Victoria had worked hard to create an artifact that could supply her with magic power instantly. Adamantine nova was the inspiration for her idea. A tool that emanated heat after being condensed to the extreme. There was nothing to be afraid of if she could change this heat into magic power. Her teacher, Anastasia, hadn't used it to bind the artifacts for nothing. Quack wong, while the players were swept away indiscriminately. Open hollow corner bracket I feel this every time I see it, but what an amusing tool. Someone appeared through the smoke. It was an older man who was progressing from middle age to his golden years. He had a nice smile, but the aura around him was sharp. The Ice King. The king of mercenaries who had come out of his secluded living and begun to make his name known around the world again. He clapped his hands, spinning his body like a top. The ground was split, and ice thorns shot at Victoria. Barriers were automatically created around her to block the ice thorns. Each ice thorn destroyed another barrier, and in the meantime, the Ice King was able to reach Victoria. Open hollow corner bracket. Look here. It's alright to stop now, so how about it? You and those of us who are chasing you are tired. And technically, there's no reason we should be fighting like this. The Ice King spoke in a pleading tone while avoiding Victoria's magic. He had come here on a request, so it wasn't good to be fighting Victoria here. The time and strength he was wasting here was a great loss for him. He needed to take care of Victoria and chase after Khan. And in addition to that calculating aspect, the Ice King actually understood Victoria. Saving a precious comrade from a group of hyenas. If he were in that situation, he would have done the same. No matter what Khan had done. But the problem is, both of his hands shone blue. I'm the villain right now. Victoria lightly flicked her finger as if he wasn't worth answering. Runes floated above her hand for a moment, and a red tongue of fire lashed out. Open angle bracket floor explosion close angle bracket. A superior spell that forced the extraction of the sun's heat. Being hit with it would take your life instantly. However, the Ice King wasn't one to stay still. He clicked his tongue, thinking that there was nothing he could do but stop her, and shot his hands out. Columns embedded underground suddenly popped out. No, they were large enough to seem like ice columns, but they were actually walls of wind. Open angle bracket ice palm close angle bracket. The Ice King's signature skill that caused tall ice tsunamis. With the ice columns, the floor explosion crumbled. Poopapong. New ice tsunamis covered the sky when he spread his left hand out. Soon after, he spread his right hand apart as well. The ice tsunamis continued to build around Victoria, trapping her in an ice cage. It was the Ice King's solution to force her down. Open hollow corner bracket. Oh dear. The ice storm was unable to touch Victoria at all. Open hollow corner bracket. Everything will have been for nothing then. She had run away high above using consecutive blinks. However, contrary to his words, there was a concerned smile on the Ice King's face. Open hollow corner bracket. Still, you should have stayed in there. Then you wouldn't have gotten hurt. A ray of light poured down as if it had been waiting. The Archer of Silver, Strige. The famous bounty hunter had predicted her escape route and shot his bow. Open angle bracket shot of moonlight close angle bracket. It was a skill that split through air to reach its target. Behind Victoria, a masked assassin appeared through a portal. He was a famous ranker known as Moonwalker. Multiple magic circles rose up around Victoria. At least, they tried to. Before the magic power could gather, Strige's shot of moonlight destroyed the magic circles. The adamantine nova stopped functioning for a moment from the backlash, and Moonwalker aimed for Victoria's throat. Kwang! Moonwalker's sword barely missed her throat. The bracelet around her wrist had created a new barrier around her. However, unable to withstand the impact, the bracelet crumpled to pieces. That was what Moonwalker had been after. The crumbled bracelet was what connected Victoria and the adamantine nova. With it broken, she wouldn't be supplied with magic power from the adamantine nova anymore. Victoria quickly stretched out for the adamantine nova, but open hollow corner bracket. Get her. The commander below, who had been watching the situation, nodded. Fitting the title of the greatest mercenary clan, the players of Iron Lion moved quickly. They lifted their iron bows from their shoulders and aimed for Victoria. Quack quack wong, poopapong. Every time the magic steel rocket, which another one of the 5 great artisans, Moth, made, was shot, they exploded in the air. Victoria pitched down, her skin blackened from the smoke. Open hollow corner bracket. No. She tried to catch the adamantine nova that was falling before her. Victoria, please help me. She had to have that item. They were still chasing after Khan. She had to stall for time for him to hide. There's someone I want to save. I know it's shameless to sacrifice you like this, but I'm still asking it of you of this. It hadn't been that long since she met Khan. During that short time, Khan had gripped her with a desperate gaze. Please, help me. The request to stall for time. She couldn't forget how the tears were dripping down his face. She didn't know what was moving him, what he was after, or what he was doing. Thinking back, Khan was always like that. Even back when they were on the 5 mountains, he was always playful, but there were times when he was unreadable. He had a gaze like he was looking at something. However, that gaze wasn't on Victoria, and he just smiled bitterly when she asked about it. He was always like that. Someone who didn't let anyone get close. She hated people like that. But strangely, that was what pulled her closer to him. Even though he always teased her, Khan was like a little brother to her. No, looking back at it now, she might have considered him as a man. So she wanted to help him and stall for as much time as she could. She didn't care that he might have been using her. She just wanted to do it. An image of her furious teacher, who was probably looking for her, flashed by her head, but there was nothing she could do except apologize. It seemed she wouldn't even be able to say that now. Just then, her hand was about to reach the adamantine nova, but Moonwalker appeared, sword raised. Open hollow corner bracket ah. That was all Victoria said. Her wrist was disconnected from her arm. She didn't feel any pain. All she could think of was grasping what was in front of her. Things couldn't end like this. Boom! Victoria crashed into the ground. She had fallen from high above without any protection, and her body was crushed. Her spine was shattered, but the small amount of magic power that was left was holding her body together. Multiple players, including players from the Iron Lion, pounced on her. It was to question where Khan was before she took her last breath. Open hollow corner bracket, you have to deal with her carefully. She's the only person who knows where Bloodsword is. She might be hiding something else, so don't let down your guards. On the orders of the fourth commander of the Iron Lion, Torka, the mercenaries tore dispelling scrolls and bound her hands and feet using magic power binds. Clack, clack, Torka examined Victoria with a serious gaze. The Ice King approached him with a bitter smile. Open hollow corner bracket, don't hurt her too much. Open hollow corner bracket, are you still going on about that? Open hollow corner bracket, she's not a bad person. And she's trying to protect your younger master. Take that into consideration. Younger master. Torka's eyes wavered for a moment at those words, but his expression stayed the same. Open hollow corner bracket, you've dulled. Open hollow corner bracket, is that so? Open hollow corner bracket, yes. You wouldn't have said that in the past. In Torka's memories, the Ice King was always focused on the most efficient way to accomplish his goals. He was cold-blooded, not caring about what would be sacrificed in the process. Open hollow corner bracket, I've become older. Also close hollow corner bracket. The Ice King had a mysterious smile. Open hollow corner bracket, I don't want to become enemies with him. Torka frowned. Open hollow corner bracket, are you talking about him again? Open hollow corner bracket, haha, you'll understand why I'm saying this if you see him. Open hollow corner bracket, even so, nothing will change. Torka snorted. The Hoarder. He had heard about him countless times since he was always at the center of big events. He heard that he was close to Khan as well, but he didn't think much of it. Others said that he had brought down the ruler King Benteke and Triton alone. That he might be the next Nine King. However, Torka thought that was hilarious. Emerging clans. Others might have been in awe of them, but they were just infamous rookies. That was proved by how Triton toppled without being able to fight back. On the other hand, the Iron Lion clan was different. They had a long history, and their forces weren't lacking compared to the large clans. No matter how amazing the Hoarder was, he couldn't fight against them alone. The warning of the Ice King. The same went for that. Like he had said, the Ice King was old. The older you became, the more worries you would have. After this, I should let the higher-ups know and cut all ties with the Ice King. It seems like he's still skilled, but his soft judgment can ruin the battle. Victoria was tied up, and his subordinates told him they had collected the adamantine nova as well. Open hollow corner bracket, everyone get ready to return to. Just when Torka was giving orders to return. Quang! A large object that looked like a meteorite fell from the sky, shook the ground. Tens of mercenaries became neatly chopped pieces of flesh and shot up. At the very center, Yian Wu, with his wings of fire spread apart, was holding Victoria. And, open hollow corner bracket, oh dear. He seems quite angry. The Ice King scratched his temples and spoke awkwardly toward Torka. Open hollow corner bracket, can I drop out of this round? Chapter 328, Descendants of the Monkey King 3. Team. Thursdays, Yahiko, 6/10. Torka glared at the Ice King with a flabbergasted face. Regardless, the Ice King took a step back. It was clear he really didn't want to be involved this time. This is why we shouldn't work with old people. Torka could feel the last of his respect towards the Ice King disappearing. The Ice King was fearful. Way too scared for Torka's taste. Just what was the Hoarder anyway? Torka nodded at his subordinates in the back. The warriors of Iron Lion all raised their weapons at the hoarder. Cashing, Torka silently raised his twin swords, his trademark weapons, and stepped forward. Open hollow corner bracket. I didn't want to show this side of myself, haha. Victoria smiled bitterly and looked toward Yi and Wu. Through her blood-drenched hair, he could see that her eyes were focused somewhere behind him. In other words, her vision was destroyed. She's in danger. Yi and Wu's eyes hardened as he looked down at Victoria in his arms. Victoria was in critical condition. One of her hands was cut off, and her entire body was covered with burns. On top of that, she had internal injuries from forcing her magic power. It wasn't good. Healing and recovery were at work, but it wasn't enough. Her life was being drained at a quick pace. The adamantine nova. Just then, Yi and Wu saw the adamantine nova rolling around on the floor in the corner of his eye. It wasn't shining like usual, but there was still a powerful wavelength of magic power emanating from it. When Yi and Wu stretched his hand forward, the adamantine nova floated upwards and landed on Victoria's hand. URRNG. Victoria rubbed it with her hand. The adamantine nova was what she wanted to catch but couldn't in the end. Now, it was back in her possession. However, her empty gaze continued to look blankly in front of her. Open hollow corner bracket. This time I wanted to be of help. Yi and Wu thought Victoria was blaming herself for leaving Khan behind on the 5 mountains of penances. The regret from back then was still stacked up in her heart. Yi and Wu didn't know what to say. All he could do was hold her tight. Open hollow corner bracket. Boo. Chech. On his command, 2 inferno sights flared like will-o'-the-wisps behind Yi and Wu. Open corner bracket. Yes, sir. Open hollow corner bracket. Save her. No matter what it takes. Open corner bracket. Yes, sir. Just then, the adamantine nova began to tremble fervently and shine brilliantly. The light began to wrap around Victoria. Her eyes widened. How? The adamantine nova was a tricky item to work with. Even Anastasia had only used it as a core to seal in artifacts, and Victoria herself extracted magic power from it through a tool. And when it was broken, she couldn't use the adamantine nova anymore. But the lich who seemed to be Yi and Wu's subordinate appeared unaffected and was using it smoothly. Also, the magic it was using was a superior magic called open angle bracket healing potion close angle bracket. Normally, it wasn't magic that Lix, who dealt with death, should have been able to use. However, Boo didn't stop at her curiosity and focused on healing her like Yi and Wu ordered. While Yi and Wu was also absorbed in supplying the magic power for the treatment. Open hollow corner bracket hand over red Deodara, hoarder. Close hollow corner bracket TN. I found that Deodara means sacred tree, and I'll change sacred red tree to red Deodara so the flow is smoother. Many players were starting to close in on them. Their eyes were full of greed. It wasn't visible because of the mask, but Yi and Wu's face was colder than ever. Instead of replying to them, he swished his wings of fire to the side. With the intense heat, the things he didn't want to see were swept away. Qua. Open hollow corner bracket. Open hollow corner bracket. The faces of the players stiffened. All the players who were in Yi and Wu's attack range had been vaporized. Not a single one was left behind. They were all gone. The ones who raised barriers and the ones who were on the defense, there were no exceptions. Only ashes remained where they used to be. The problem was that the great heat was still circulating around Yi and Wu. Shwoo. Open hollow corner bracket. Everyone be careful. Torka, who realized the danger first, shouted, dashing forward. The chiefs of Iron Lion all jumped forward, and even the famed bounty hunter Moonwalker Streech stepped up. Every time the wings of fire thrashed around, intense heat waves spread around them, heating up the atmosphere. Dust clouds rose to blur their vision. Open hollow corner bracket. Hup. Yi and Wu suddenly popped up next to Moonwalker. He moved as stealthily as a ghost. Yi and Wu had moved so deftly that Moonwalker hadn't been able to read his presence at all. Moonwalker widened his eyes and quickly tried to defend himself, but Yi and Wu was in front of him before he knew it. Kwang. Yi and Wu's fists flashed forward. It was a simple punch. However, its destructive power wasn't simple at all. Moonwalker was blown away. His armor was crushed, and the blood that poured from his mouth had pieces of his internal organs within it. Yi and Wu had shown a shocking amount of strength that shouldn't have been possible while he was holding Victoria with one arm. However, that wasn't the end. Yi and Wu's wings of fire grew even larger, and he quickly chased after Moonwalker, who had been blown far away. Like how Moonwalker cut off Victoria's hand, Yi and Wu planned to slice Moonwalker's throat. Open hollow corner bracket. Where do you think you're going? Open hollow corner bracket. Stop. The mercenaries of Iron Lion shot forward. Streech was guarding their backs from behind them. He was planning on launching the shot of moonlight to keep Yi and Wu busy. But Yi and Wu didn't clash with them directly. He suddenly stopped in the air and spun his body. His wings of fire drew a huge whirlwind around him. When the power of the heat was so intense that the players couldn't approach him, something popped out. The mercenaries, who thought it was Yi and Wu, were taken aback. What came from the fire wasn't Yi and Wu. They were monsters dripping with residual poison blood. Behind them, ashy ghosts appeared and confused their surroundings. The second soul, Kyakyakya, Kyak, open hollow corner bracket W, what is this? Open hollow corner bracket Kayok. The monster portents that kept on growing in number quickly amounted to about 50, digging deep between the ranks of the mercenaries. Every time they flung their fingernails around, blood spurted out, and the poisoned mercenaries plopped down to the ground with pale faces. Open hollow corner bracket. Where is he? Amid all the confusion, Streech hesitated with his arrow knocked, ready to fire. He's gone. He didn't see Yi and Wu at all. Where had he disappeared to? Feeling shivers down his back, he quickly turned around, but... Open hollow corner bracket. You're too late. Yi and Wu appeared behind him and was already striking with his magic bayonet. Phew! A fountain of blood splattered out, and the bodiless Streech collapsed on the floor. There was another corpse laid nicely next to Streech's. It was Moonwalker's. 2 rankers had died in an instant. Open hollow corner bracket U. Torka ran forward with a red face. No, he tried to. And he may have done it, too, if it wasn't for the monstrous energy that suddenly appeared before he could reach Yi and Wu. Boom! This time, an explosive sound rang out from behind. Torka turned his head in the direction of the sound and frowned. A gumiho that was the size of a house stood above their heads. The howling she released while her 9 tails were pointed up made him shiver. Open hollow corner bracket. A mere human dares to lay a finger on my disciple. A mere human. Torka wasn't given the chance to reply. When the gumiho stomped one of her feet, foxfire flared up and spread around her in an instant. The rest of the remaining players were swept away. Open hollow corner bracket. Ah! Torka found himself scooting back on his butt. He was half conscious. The mighty monstrous energy the gumiho was exuding had killed his fighting spirit. Open hollow corner bracket die. That one word was enough to determine Torka's death. The moment she gave the command, looking at Torka with monster eyes, the rest of his will was cut off. He was gone. Plop! Yi and Wu looked at the only person who remained. Open hollow corner bracket. What about you, sir? Would you like to fight? Open hollow corner bracket. Leave me out. I didn't join the fight when you appeared. The Ice King smiled bitterly and looked around at his comrades. No, the things that used to be his comrades. They were completely gone or reduced to ashes. One poor choice had led to their deaths. Yi and Wu nodded silently. He was going to take care of the Ice King while he was here, but because he didn't seem to have any will to fight, Yi and Wu didn't do anything. Open hollow corner bracket. Still, allow me to take care of the corpses. Open hollow corner bracket. Feel free to do so. Open hollow corner bracket. Thank you. The Ice King bowed with genuine gratitude and quietly murmured to himself. Open hollow corner bracket. It'll be loud this time, too. There's always commotion when the hoarder appears. Such rumors of the hoarder were spread throughout the tower, but it seemed like it wouldn't stop at that this time. The strongest mercenary clan, Iron Lion, wouldn't let this go easily, and with 2 rankers dead, the people chasing after Khan would be greatly shocked. The Ice King already felt tired from the questions he would receive. Open hollow corner bracket. This is all because of you. Anastasia, having returned to her human form, spoke to Yi and Wu, holding Victoria in her arms. Open hollow corner bracket. If you didn't appear to encourage this child, this wouldn't have happened. Anastasia left, leaving those words behind. Open corner bracket. What's up with that granny? She's so rude. Why is she talking to you like that? Shannon muttered to himself in annoyance. Would Victoria have gone searching for Khan even without Yi and Wu's visit? Shannon thought so. Yi and Wu was just stuck in the middle. Anastasia just needed someone to blame. However, open hollow corner bracket. Yi and Wu didn't say anything for a while. He had experienced something similar in the past. It wasn't because of Anastasia. His gaze was fixed on Victoria. Victoria had moved to rescue Khan. He was trying to find his brother's soul. The 2 images overlapped. Open corner bracket master. Open hollow corner bracket huh. What? Open corner bracket, why are you acting like that suddenly? Open hollow corner bracket, it's nothing. Yi and Wu shook his head. Shannon was worried about him, but he didn't reflect it and quickly turned around. Open corner bracket, what are you gonna do now? That granny has quite an attitude. Open hollow corner bracket, we have to find out what happened here. However, Victoria, who could explain the situation, was gone with Anastasia. Who could he ask? He looked around aimlessly and saw the Ice King about to leave after taking care of the corpses. It was bad to stop him from going after telling him he could leave, but there was nothing he could do. And it's a bit annoying. He felt wronged by what Anastasia said to him. She had blamed him for what the Ice King, technically, had done. Open hollow corner bracket, please wait a moment. Thinking that he had done something wrong, the Ice King straightened his back and turned to Yi and Wu. Sweat dripped down his back. Open hollow corner bracket, what's wrong? Open hollow corner bracket, I changed my mind. I think you should stay here with us. The Ice King laughed awkwardly. Open hollow corner bracket, what is it? Open hollow corner bracket, I need someone to explain the situation. Open hollow corner bracket. Yi and Wu narrowed his eyes. Open hollow corner bracket, do you not want to? He spread his palm open. Black fire flared up and disappeared. Whoosh! Images of Torka and the others being swept away by the fire in an instant flashed through the Ice King's head. Moreover, fire was the perfect weakness of his skill set. Open hollow corner bracket, ha ha. He laughed awkwardly. Open hollow corner bracket, of course not. It's you who's requesting it, so of course I'll listen to it. I know your teacher, too. Ask me anything you want. He smiled brightly. Open hollow corner bracket, so. Where should I start? Team Yahiko, Thursdays, 7/10. News of the battle between Yi and Wu and the mercenaries spread like fire to the players on the 20th floor. The Hoarder. Ho ho, so the Hoarder is here. The monster covered in bandages, faceless, laughed in a seductive voice. Faceless had an elegant posture, as if they were currently a noblewoman. When Faceless spoke again, a warrior's voice came growling out. Yes, there's no way that Hyena wouldn't be where these incidents happen. The voice changed again. It was the voice of a bright child looking forward to a delicious meal. Hee, why don't we make that guy our friend? I'm curious about what kind of soul he has. I hope it tastes good. Then, Faceless whipped around to turn to the subordinates next to them. The Chest of Souls, the group that followed Faceless. It was also a large-scale group that was considered one of the new emerging clans. We'll pause searching for Blood Sword. Find the Hoarder now. It's clear what kind of key he holds. The subordinates bowed and quietly left. Faceless's eyes shined through the bandages. They were as calm as a researcher observing their studies. There were other groups moving quickly aside from them. Victoria is the only clue to Blood Sword's location. Cast search magic, quickly. On Dr. Doom's orders, Necropolis quickly scattered around the stage, casting spells and Torka is dead. The Hoarder is now our enemy, so until you bring his head back on a platter, don't think of returning here. The Iron Lion clan ground their teeth in fury. The Hoarder. Yeah, there were rumors that he might have Bian studies, too. That means that he might have pieces of the Ruyi Bang as well. We'll see when we meet him. A few shadows began to move. Yi and Wu's party quickly left the battlefield and arrived at an isolated location. They were far enough from the stage where the restrictions wouldn't affect them. Actually, the fight that just occurred was only a front for something else. The Ice King began to explain the happenings of the stage to Yi and Wu. He didn't seem like he was concealing information. Something else, like this. As if he had nothing else to hide, the Ice King dug around in his breast pocket and pulled something else. It was a golden piece of metal, a Ruyi Bang piece. And, the pieces of the Ruyi Bang Yi and Wu had shook and came floating out. Yi and Wu's eyes widened. You are a descendant of the Monkey King, too. Yes, only half, though, half. Just by having a piece, I gained the title of Descendant of the Monkey King, but I don't have much to be proud of. The Ice King laughed bitterly. Yi and Wu didn't force the subject and turned to another topic. But how was I able to hide it? Yi and Wu nodded. Pieces of the Ruyi Bang resonated with each other in proximity. It was how descendants of the Monkey King were able to recognize each other. However, Yi and Wu hadn't met any other descendants yet. He hadn't felt anything from the Ice King during the attack on Walpurgisnacht. The Ice King laughed with a slightly mischievous face. Do you remember what I said? About meeting again if fate led us. Yi and Wu was reminded when the Ice King glanced and smiled at him while the Martial King was talking to him. At the time, Yi and Wu thought it was just an expression of goodbye, but what if that wasn't it? Then, yes, actually, I knew you were a descendant of the Monkey King like me. Because of this. The Ice King pointed at the shaking Ruyi Bang piece. But, right, I knew, but you couldn't feel it. Actually, I always keep this under binds so it can't resonate with other pieces. Of course, I still can't hide it completely. Yi and Wu clicked his tongue. He realized why he couldn't find any descendants of the Monkey King all this time. If there was a way to hide the resonance, there was no way he could find others. However, that meant, a few others might have recognized me. It was a mistake. I know what you're thinking, but don't worry. Actually, there aren't any people with pieces on the lower floors. Are they all gathered on the higher floors? It's already been 1,000 years since the pieces of the Ruyi Bang scattered because Monkey King felt like it. Most of the pieces have been discovered by now, and they're in the possession of rankers. Yi and Wu nodded in understanding. That meant things would be fine as long as he was careful about it from then on. Anyways, back to the subject at hand. The fight going on right now is a scramble for pieces. Right, the Ice King nodded heavily. It's a scramble for pieces for the first time in a while. Descendants trying to take each other's pieces, and most of the players here are such descendants. Blood Sword called us here, and we came, even while knowing it would be hell. Like moths drawn to a flame. Moths. That was what the Ice King called everyone who came. Earlier, I said I was only half right. Yes. In fact, most descendants are halves like me. Having a piece. So what? They don't know how to control it and can't use it as an artifact anyway. It's just an expensive decoration. The Ice King rubbed his piece preciously. To use this, you have to have the 72 Bian. The thing that raised the Monkey King to his holy position. Yi and Wu felt the whole picture coming together. The one who spread the rumors that Bian studies has been discovered was Khan. Indeed, descendants with pieces needed more of them. However, it wasn't just the pieces needed. To be a true descendant, they needed the other condition, the 72 Bian. Khan had known this well. He spread rumors that he had Bian studies on purpose, and he had the descendants of the Monkey King gather somewhere that restricted movement for other rankers but was extremely advantageous to him. And the 20th floor was the perfect place for that. Since Khan had lived here as a sadhu for a long time, there was no better place than here. In the end, so Khan isn't the prey but the predator instead. He wasn't in danger. He had brought it upon himself. The difference between these situations was vast. The problem is that it's not just the descendants who have come but also those interested in the 72 Bian. From different magic towers who needed new fields of magic to learn to clans of alchemists. The Iron Lion clan, who was trying to force their runaway young master back home. Faceless and the Chest of Souls, who joined with something up their sleeves. Mercenaries like Twice and Nocturne, who you've seen before, and bounty hunters after a quick buck. Everyone's jumped in. It's pandemonium. It wouldn't be strange for something to happen in this pandemonium. Here, we're not the hunters. The Ice King's eyes darkened. It's Blood Sword. Open hollow corner bracket son of AB. The ranker Sardia glared at his enemy with bloodshot eyes. The archenemy who had killed the comrades he considered his brothers. Even if he died, he didn't want to show a weak side of himself. Open hollow corner bracket if you wanted to harm someone, you should have known that you could be the one getting hurt. Quack. Sardia's head fell to the ground with a stroke of the blade. Khan wiped his bloodied face with the back of his hand. They were all motions he was too familiar with recently. Fighting and killing were now common occurrences to him. And collecting it in the end. When Khan stretched his hand out, pieces of the Ruyi Bang came floating up from the corpses. They combined with the pieces that Khan had and began to take shape. Clack, clack, the combined pieces became a bead. It was quite large now, about the size of his palm. One would expect that he would be proud of collecting so many, but his eyes were cold. Open hollow corner bracket I guess I've gathered enough for it to be useful now. Just then, a shadow popped up from behind Khan and took the form of a mischievous-looking child. Kindred, the second bishop of the devil army smiled greedily and rubbed his hands on the pieces. Open hollow corner bracket I've gathered over 200 pieces now. Khan spoke to Kindred's back. However, Kindred didn't turn around. Open hollow corner bracket so. He bit his lower lip. Open hollow corner bracket that should be enough for him to descend. Open hollow corner bracket no close hollow corner bracket. Kindred cut Khan off without mercy. Open hollow corner bracket do you think descending is that easy? Do you think the great heavenly demon is the same as the other mere minor gods on the 98th floor? Minor gods. Many gods and demons would be horrified to hear that. However, the devil army that followed the heavenly demon didn't seem to care. In fact, Kindred spoke like there was no other way to describe the other gods. Except for the heavenly demon, the rest of the beings were just birds trapped in cages, and they were only prey for the heavenly demon when he woke up. The minor gods could manifest in the lower world through apostles or primeval bodies. Why? Because that was all their vessels amounted to. However, the heavenly demon was different. He needed a large vessel to descend, and one of the great artifacts required for it was the Rui Bang. The more pieces, the better. It was the reason why Kindred was making Khan gather them. Looking at Kindred rubbing the pieces greedily, Khan's fingers shook. He lost count of how many times he wanted to stab Kindred in the back. However, Doyle's safety was in their hands, and he didn't have any power to save Doyle at the moment. There was only one choice he could make in the end. Becoming the devil army's marionette. Open hollow corner bracket. Why don't you attack me? I'm sure you want to. Kindred smiled coldly as if he could read Khan's mind. Khan bowed. Open hollow corner bracket. I never had any disrespectful intentions. I gravely apologize if you felt that way, sir. Open hollow corner bracket. You're no fun. Back when we were Sadhu, you were pretty amusing. Open hollow corner bracket. Kindred smirked. Open hollow corner bracket. Anyways, as you said, we've gathered quite a bit now. If we gather just a little more, I expect it will be able to function as a sacrificial vessel. Khan clenched his fist. The moment he had been waiting for had come. The sacrificial vessel. The vessel they were trying to create with pieces of the Rui Bang. Open hollow corner bracket. With this much, the heavenly demon's other face and the heavenly demon's friend will be satisfied. Kindred had searched for the Monkey King's shedding for 10 years with all his senses blocked. If he could serve the one who was somewhere in the Monkey King's palace here. With the heavenly demon in a deep slumber, they could serve another being who would lead the devil army instead of him. This was the devil army's eternal mission. Because they were a religious cult, the fact that their god was in a deep slumber affected them greatly. However, even after meeting the shedding of the Monkey King after all that time, he couldn't serve him as their king. The shedding had already become one with the palace. There was no way to bring him out. After thinking of a solution with the other bishops, they were able to find a loophole. If they couldn't bring the shedding out, they could use a vessel to move it. That was how he had thought of using the Rui Bang. However, the pieces that the devil army had already collected were being used. They had to gather other pieces. It was then that Khan had begun to move. Doyle was bound to the devil army for a particular reason. Khan had made a deal with the devil army to save Doyle. He would become their faithful dog, and they would give Doyle over after he finished what he needed to do. Open hollow corner bracket. So work harder. Kindred took all the pieces and disappeared. It was obvious where he was going, back to the palace to appease the shedding. Footprints of blood were left behind where he left. Corpses were piled up on the ground. Open hollow corner bracket. I apologize. The quiet words Khan muttered to himself blew away in the wind. Chapter 330. Descendants of the Monkey King 5. Crazy B****. Anastasia cursed as she healed her disciples' destroyed arms and eyes. Victoria was deep in sleep from exhaustion. Looking at her face, Anastasia let out a deep sigh. She knew best how her disciple felt all this time. Victoria couldn't do anything because she was drowning in guilt, and when she finally got back to her daily life, she always looked depressed. For the last 100 years, Anastasia had only seen her disciple act shamelessly. It had been ages since she saw her disciple acting like this. When Victoria had thrown a tantrum saying she needed to save Khan, Anastasia didn't help her and locked her in a room instead. If she let her go, Victoria would really go insane. Anastasia didn't want to see her one and only disciple become a crazy B****. But she had ended up like this in the end. There was nothing Anastasia could do but scold her as she smoked the pipe in her mouth. Open hollow corner bracket. Victoria. Just then, a breeze silently gathered and took the form of a human. Rebecca settled down and held Victoria in her arms to console her old friend. Some time passed like that, and Victoria slowly opened her eyes. Did you wake up, you little teacher, B****? Sorry, you did a cute number on the adamantine nova. Victoria couldn't look Anastasia in the eyes and dropped her head. In case it was stolen by other people. Fine, that would have been an issue, so I understand. But the problem is that things became tricky even for me. The moment Anastasia checked the adamantine nova, she was almost scared to death. There was a spell engraved clearly on it. It was an item binding contract. It was set so if the adamantine nova was some distance away from Victoria, it would explode immediately. Also, because it was bound, it would take a while to release it. It meant one thing: even in that state, she's gonna help out that con bastard or whatever his name is. Anastasia was going to scold her again but just sighed and took the pipe out of her mouth. White smoke spread around her. Quote. The two didn't say anything for a while. Victoria's head hung low, and Anastasia just silently held her pipe in her mouth. Then, Anastasia spoke up again. So, Yes, Anastasia shouted in an annoyed voice. So do you feel better after going through all that now? Victoria smiled bitterly. A bit. Ha, you pushover. The smoke wrapped around Anastasia and then disappeared. Still, if you feel a bit better now, that's good. But no more. But teacher, no means no. Anastasia cut her off. She wouldn't allow any more rebellion. She seemed like she would forcefully hold Victoria back if she didn't listen. Victoria clenched her teeth. She had stalled for time as she wanted, but that was it. She still hadn't saved Khan. Even now, he was probably off fighting other people. Her gaze fell towards the adamantine nova. Anastasia had said that it was tricky for her because there was a binding spell on it. That meant that for the time being, she would be the only person able to use it. Anastasia wouldn't be able to stop her if she used that. Wait, then how did Kane's subordinate use that? At first, she had thought that the spell hadn't worked properly. She was extremely curious, but she decided to leave it alone and think about how to activate the adamantine nova. If she could escape and create a temporary tool to use it. Anastasia was about to shout at her disciple, who hadn't given up hope yet. Just then, that's enough, Victoria. Yi and Wu suddenly stepped through the door. Behind him, the Ice King followed with an awkward smile. Why didn't you kill him? I'm sure I told you to cut off his head and send it back to Iron Lion. Anastasia reproached Kane. The Ice King had a sour face. Regardless of whether he was uncomfortable, Anastasia took out her anger on Yi and Wu for bringing the Ice King. The Ice King was the one who hurt Victoria the most, so of course she would be furious. However, Yi and Wu firmly shook his head. No, he promised to help us from now. How do you know that? We made a pledge. He was speaking about the soul contract that they pledged on a demon's name. If they broke the conditions of the contract, their soul would be sold to a demon. The Ice King signed. He would die if he didn't do it, so he didn't have any other choice. Anastasia put her pipe in her mouth. She still didn't look satisfied. Anyways, so, I learned the cause of this incident. The cause? Anastasia had an inquisitive expression. He sighed at the thought of having to repeat everything the Ice King said, but he stepped up to explain the fight for Bian studies. The moment the words, Ruyi Bang, and, descendants of the Monkey King, came up, Anastasia's eyes became bigger. Having lived for 1,000 years, she knew the many secrets of the tower, so naturally, she had heard about the Ruyi Bang pieces. At the time, she just thought it was a strange game the Monkey King had left behind, but it had unexpectedly appeared in front of her. When he finished explaining, Anastasia looked back at Frisia as if asking if it was all true. Frisia silently nodded. Then, she just continued to stand silently, like there was nothing else she had to add. Anastasia's face hardened further. So then this B*** was played. Victoria shut her mouth. It was Yi and Wu who answered instead. That's probably not it. You said that Blood Sword or whoever set everything up to gather pieces, no. And this B*** was played by him. Khan is probably being used. After hearing the cause of this incident from the Ice King, Yi and Wu was able to solve the mystery behind Khan. The first clue was the words the letter left behind after becoming ash. He still couldn't forget what they said. Help me. In the tutorial, Khan had headed towards Orangdan even knowing that he would be in danger. He had requested help. Looking back at it now, Khan had been giving him signals from the Monkey King's palace. When seeing the stones with the 72 Bian on it, Khan had been staring at them blatantly, as if searching for something. He tried to say something to Yi and Wu several times, but he just shook his head and stopped himself. Despite knowing what it was about, Yi and Wu left him alone, thinking Khan wasn't ready to share yet. He thought Khan would explain everything to him someday. But, if that wasn't it, if he was ready to speak but couldn't, if Yi and Wu's laid-back attitude had been too relaxed, Then, Khan wasn't asking for help for himself. It's been a while since I was separated from him. A brother-like fellow he had split up with. Doyle. Could he have been asking for Yi and Wu's help to help that child? Athena looks at you with sad eyes. Just then, a message popped up for the first time in a while after he left Tartarus. However, please don't pity me. Yi and Wu rejected her gaze. Athena looks at you with sad eyes. Yi and Wu ignored Athena's message and explained his thinking. And your proof? I have none. But what do you want me to believe? You don't have to believe me. Anastasia raised an eyebrow in disbelief. What? I didn't say it for you to understand. I only came to convince Victoria. Yi and Wu didn't care about Anastasia's glare and turned to Victoria, who was staring blankly at him. It's only a guess. However, I don't think I'm wrong. What do you think, Victoria? I think you're right. And it's probably the Devil Army pulling the strings and threatening Khan. Victoria silently nodded and clenched her fists. When Khan had first met her, he only asked for help and nothing else. The moment she heard what Yi and Wu said, she felt like her head was clearing up. The Khan she knew was someone who would throw himself away to protect someone special to him. So it's not just the people here who you need to deal with to help Khan, you also need to fight the Devil Army. You might become an enemy of all the rankers here. Unless you were one of the 9 kings, fighting a war with a large clan like the Devil Army wouldn't be easy. However, Yi and Wu said he was going to fight. Victoria quickly checked the magic power remaining in her body. Thankfully, she was healed somewhat from the monstrous power that Anastasia planted in her. It would be hard for her to fight, but she could support from the back. She thought Yi and Wu was obviously going to ask for her help. So, Anastasia must have thought the same thing because she was about to remove the pipe from her mouth to say something, but... Please stay here, ... What? They were completely unexpected words. If you step up, you'll only be in more danger. He was telling her to stay here because she'd be a burden. The only reason Yi and Wu was telling her this was so she wouldn't chase after him if he quietly disappeared. ... Victoria bit her lower lip. The fact that she couldn't be of any help and would be a burden reminded her of back when she was powerless on the 5 mountains of penances. However, Yi and Wu immediately turned away after he finished, along with the words that he would be back with Khan soon. Seasongnam, stupid B****. After Yi and Wu left, Victoria clenched her teeth in consideration for a while and called for Anastasia. However, Anastasia didn't say much and just put the pipe back in her mouth. Because she was her one and only disciple, Victoria knew what it meant. Thank you. Victoria bowed and put a shirt on to leave. The adamantine Nova followed her like a tail as she ran out the door. Can you send her like that? She's the first child you were affectionate for. Frisia, who had been standing silently in the back, asked. Her face couldn't be seen because she was wearing her wooden mask, but her eyes were curved. Her voice made it seem like she was smiling. Not liking Frisia's attitude, Anastasia frowned and pulled out her pipe with anger. She'll do what she needs to do. How long do I have to take care of her? You've changed, Anastasia. I don't know who she takes after that, she's so stupid. Tisk. I should have stopped her when she said she was going to do that weird sadhu thing. Despite her harsh words, her voice was filled with concern. There's no teacher who can beat their disciple. Through the smoke, Anastasia looked blankly in front of her. And nothing is as scary as a woman blinded by love. Chapter 331 Descendants of the Monkey King 6. Team. Yahiko, Thursdays 9/10. Athena looks at you with sad eyes. Athena looks at you with sad eyes. The godly society, Olympus, is observing you quietly. How annoying. The Ice King whipped his head back in surprise at Yi and Wu's abrupt words. What's wrong? It's nothing. Nothing at all. There's just something that's been bothering me from before. ... The Ice King sighed in relief upon realizing that he wasn't the something that was bothering Yi and Wu. At the same time, he tilted his head in confusion because he didn't know what it was. Athena looks at you with sad eyes. Athena's gaze was now unpleasant for Yi and Wu. Like she didn't plan on turning away anytime soon, she continued to look at him with an emotional gaze. The same went for the other gods. They're probably curious about Tartarus. Olympus had probably realized what Yi and Wu was trying to do. Just by looking at the materials that he needed, one could guess what he was doing. And now, they were focusing on him because they were wondering why he had gotten distracted. However, Athena's gaze was a bit different. A gaze filled with pity. He could almost feel her sympathy from here. He especially didn't like that gaze. Being understood by someone and receiving someone's pity were two completely different things, so he glared at Athena, who was somewhere up in the sky. Athena looks at you with sad eyes. But the message didn't disappear. Eventually, Yi and Wu ignored Athena's gaze and turned his head. He saw Victoria, who looked exhausted but had followed them all the way here. Please go back. ... No, how do you plan on moving in that state? The effects of the spells had already done everything they could. All kinds of decorations on Victoria's arms, fingers, and ankles were holding her up. The adamantine nova was swirling around Victoria like a planet orbiting a sun, but it couldn't function properly because Victoria didn't have a tool to extract its power. No, I can do it. However, Victoria remained stubborn. When Yi and Wu moved faster to lose her, Victoria forced her tired body to chase after him. But, I won't be a burden. If I feel like I am. Victoria bit her lower lip. I'll die on my own. ... Yi and Wu looked at Victoria. She just looked back at him with firm, unwavering eyes. He knew those eyes well. It was a stubbornness no one could stop. He often had those eyes, too. ... Then do whatever you please. Yi and Wu gave in. Thank you. She had a small grin on her face. Open hollow corner bracket first off, we'll be bait. Open hollow corner bracket bait. Around the time they re-entered the boundaries of the stage, Yi and Wu began to explain his plan. Open hollow corner bracket. It's important to meet up with Khan, but what's more important is to deflect the people chasing after him. Open hollow corner bracket. You plan on lessening his burden. Open hollow corner bracket. Yes. At the same time, he'll hear of where we are. They couldn't find where Khan was no matter how hard they tried. Nike and Nemesis were searching from above, and Boo used his searching magic, but nothing came up. While Victoria had stalled for time, Khan had hidden completely. He knew the 20th floor's geography better than anyone else, having stayed here as a sadhu for a considerable amount of time. If he wanted to hide, no one would be able to hide him. So Yi and Wu had changed his mind. If he couldn't find Khan, he would reveal their location to him. It didn't matter if Khan didn't come to them. As Yi and Wu showed himself, the other descendants of the Monkey King would appear. Then, Khan would have to approach them. Yi and Wu didn't plan on hiding the fact that he had a piece. Then, even though the devil army is watching him, he'll have to come. Or. Yi and Wu's eyes flashed. Progress with another hidden agenda. Why had Khan chosen the 20th floor out of all the stages? It could be because he was familiar with it and other players would be limited, but Yi and Wu thought there was another reason. It's also where the Monkey King's palace is. It's probably not just a simple coincidence. Anyways, no matter what Khan had planned, it wasn't a waste for Yi and Wu because he would be able to find Khan. Open corner bracket. You haven't thought about the fact that you'll go through much more, right? Shannon grumbled. Open corner bracket. Geez, unlike your usual personality, you're weak when it comes to these things. Of course, like what Shannon said, Yi and Wu would have to go through more hurdles, but Yi and Wu was confident he could jump over them. He could heed the request of a friend in danger. Athena looks at you with sad eyes. Open hollow corner bracket. But how are you going to draw the enemy's attention? Although Victoria was nodding after hearing Yi and Wu's plan, there were still some things she was unclear about. Open hollow corner bracket. Like this. Yi and Wu grinned. Pat, krrng, not too far off, there was a great explosion. A column of fire pierced through the forest and reached the sky. Open hollow corner bracket. Ack. Open hollow corner bracket. Damn it. How did you know, kook? Victoria's gaze turned to where the explosion was. She had a look of surprise. The Ice King sighed. Open hollow corner bracket. People already started tailing us. That was fast. Having crossed over from the chasers to Yi and Wu's side, he felt bleak. He would receive the stigma of a traitor, a term that mercenaries carefully avoided being associated with. He thought about stepping out. Open hollow corner bracket. Where are you going? Yi and Wu used his open speaking as if he could see the Ice King's movements while he was in the middle of a fight. Open hollow corner bracket. Ahem. I think I've helped enough already. Do you have any plans of letting me go? Open hollow corner bracket. Please pick a side. Would he go with them or Yi and Wu? The Ice King hardened his face and spoke in a serious manner. Open hollow corner bracket. Of course I'm on your side. Whose side would I pick? Alright, what should I do first? Open hollow corner bracket. It's impossible at this rate. Spread apart. Open hollow corner bracket. I can't. It's blocked. Kiak. The team of chasers who had been chasing after Yi and Wu, the hidden shadow group, scattered on their commander's orders. They were well known as an assassination group, not a combative group. They usually took requests to kill someone, but they also tailed people and spied on what they were doing. Because they always moved quietly, they weren't exposed, and they were good at keeping secrets, which attracted customers. The same went for now. They had received the request of an ally to look for the hoarder's location and had begun to move carefully. After receiving news that the fourth commander of Iron Lion, Moonwalker, and Streech had been swept away by him, they didn't even plan on confronting him directly. Instead, they quietly chased after him and left signs wherever the hoarder's party moved. Then, another team would let the ally know, and the ally would slowly surround the hoarder's party to trap them. However, they were already exposed despite only leaving a few signs. The hidden shadow group quickly fled without being able to check how they were caught. But it wasn't easy to escape. Kwa. Every time Yi and Wu moved, a heat wave stopped them from moving, and the explosions that came from his sword were decreasing their numbers at a rapid pace. The players who had barely escaped Yi and Wu's attack range were also stopped. A large wall of ice appeared and blocked their escape path. Open hollow corner bracket Ice King Elder, what are you doing? The co-captain of the hidden shadow group, Harvey, shouted with a pale face. He hadn't been able to imagine that their trustworthy ally and elder had stood on Yi and Wu's side. All this time, they thought the Ice King had been defeated by the hoarder like Moonwalker. Open hollow corner bracket things happened. Sorry. The Ice King smiled bitterly at them. Until this morning, he had been eating breakfast with them, so he didn't feel comfortable raising his sword against them. However, it was the reality of the mercenary world that close friends could be enemies exchanging swords the next day. The Ice King rid himself of the last of his apologetic sentiments and lightly clapped his hands together. A blue light spread around them. An avalanche began tumbling down as cold air whirled. Open angle bracket North Sea ice wave close angle bracket. The ground froze and icicles created an ice thornbush around them. Harvey and other hidden shadow group members were pierced by the ice thorns and shot up. Blood dripped down the ice and wet the ground, which froze over again. The tool that Victoria temporarily made began to move the adamantine nova. However, because she wasn't in a good condition, she supported her party instead of directly attacking the enemies. When her magic power was somewhat restored, she drew letters in the air. Red rune letters appeared and disappeared with a pop. It was a new magic formation. Clouds rumbled above, and lightning bolted down. Boom, the three were all high rankers. The Ice King was a high ranker from a long time ago, and the abilities that made Yi and Wu considered the best of the 6 new stars were equivalent to those of a high ranker. The hidden shadow group vanished instantly. However, Yi and Wu and the others didn't stop there. Open hollow corner bracket there's some here, too. Flying above, Nike delivered the locations of the enemies to Yi and Wu. He quickly got rid of the pursuers on the stage. Rumble, screams and explosions could be heard from all around the mountains. The tables were turned against the pursuing alliance. They had been planning on cornering Yi and Wu, but with the sudden turn of unexpected events, they were shocked. They were an alliance, only in name. Because they were loosely connected, they didn't have a good contingency plan. It was because they all had different objectives. The Iron Lion was searching for the young master on their leader's orders, and the Magic Tower and Necropolis were after the Bian studies. There were also bounty hunters and mercenaries who were only in it for the money. It wasn't easy to create an efficient way to solve the situation. Holes were made in the net that they were trying to create around Yi and Wu's party. He dug deep into the alliance. And he accomplished his first goal. Under the cliff, he could see a large camp. It was the base of the Iron Lion. Chapter 332 Descendants of the Monkey King 7. Ding ding ding. News of the hoarder's arrival rang in the Iron Lion's base. Players moved frantically, but Yi and Wu began his attack. Quakwang. Every stroke of Vigrid poured fire down from the sky and reduced the base to ruins. Where do you think this is? The vice-clan leader of Iron Lion, Jonathan, rushed over to the scene, grinding his teeth. After Torka, who was like a brother to him, died, he was having a conference about how to take care of the hoarder with him roaming around the stage. He had frantically rushed over after hearing the news. Jonathan gripped his sword. The hoarder had been using the hit and run method to make the alliance helpless little by little. But he had suddenly appeared. That could only mean one thing. He was looking down on them. The fire turned the sky red and the ground black. Monster portents poured out and slaughtered the players. Then, Yi and Wu turned to him. He was wearing a mask, but his eyes were like an abyss. Jonathan stepped back subconsciously in surprise. Something scary wrapped around his heart. Let me just ask you one thing. What kind of bulls **** are you gonna talk about? Jonathan shouted to hide the fact that he had been scared for a moment. Regardless, Yi and Wu just asked his question. What does the Iron Lion clan think about Khan? What, do you think he's the son of the leader? Or simply an enemy? From the tutorial, Khan and Doyle had been wary about speaking about their parents. He knew that they were children of outstanding rankers, but they didn't talk about it. He thought he understood how they felt. Like they were tossed away. Yi and Wu also despised his father, who disappeared suddenly when he was young. He completely erased all memory of the man as he grew up, but he still sympathized with Khan and Doyle. But Khan's father, Iron Lion, was after Khan. If he was just trying to save Khan, Yi and Wu would have considered the clan his ally, but that didn't seem to be the case. They were treating Khan like he was an enemy, no, like he was a criminal. They looked as if they were going to force Khan to go with them once he was caught. However, that was just Yi and Wu's opinion. He didn't know what the Iron Lion clan was actually after. He wanted to listen to what they had to say. His relationship with the Iron Lion clan had gone past the point of no return, but if it was for Khan, he was willing to work with them. Also, as if Yi and Wu's thoughts had been clearly read, Jonathan's gaze turned calm. His boiling fury and violent aura disappeared. Instead, he looked at Yi and Wu with cold eyes. Why are you curious about that? I'm his friend. Friend. The word that he thought he would never say naturally flowed from Yi and Wu's mouth. The shadow containing Shannon and Hanryong shook. Friend, but Jonathan just snorted. Did you say, friend? He raised a corner of his mouth, forming a cold smile. He is the son of the lion. Do you think lions have friends? He may have learned the habits of wild dogs after hanging out with them, but a lion is still a lion. You don't think that a thing whose roots are unclear like you can really be his friend, right? Kwa. Jonathan gripped swords in each of his hands. It was the dual-wielding technique, which was rare to see in the tower. He's walking the wrong path because he's going through a rebellious phase. It's up to us to lead him on the correct path again. His aura whipped around his blades. The second in command, the pride of the Iron Lion clan. Although he had been pushed back by Yi and Wu for a bit, his abilities were near a high rankers. So whatever your reason is in the end, your purpose is to protect Khan. Yi and Wu stood against his aura and smiled. A short sound of laughter escaped his mask. In one way, it sounded like a laughter of relief, but it also sounded like a scoff. Jonathan was about to step forward in anger again. What you just said saved your life. What? Jonathan couldn't even shout. Yi and Wu suddenly dropped below. He instinctively tried to step back, pulling his dual blades towards him, but... Cashing. Puik. His right arm felt hot, and his arm was separated from his shoulder. Kaek. Yi and Wu briefly appeared behind the screaming Jonathan and spread his wings of fire apart to dig deep into the Iron Lion clan. Even though they're on Khan's side, they're just a bother now. I better decrease their numbers. Krung. Iron Lion. Ivan was always proud of his name. Iron, because he was strong, and Lion, because he ruled the battlefield. A lion made of iron. Invincibility and tenacity symbolized him. But, ... what a mess. Ivan laughed in disbelief at the sight in front of him. It had been 10 days since he gave orders to bring his foolish son by the collar. He had brought the 1st Brigade after receiving news that the Iron Lion clan was in danger. What greeted him was a military base in ruins. Out of the 5 brigades he dispatched to the 20th floor, 2 of them were destroyed, 1 of them was half gone, and the remaining 2 were either filled with soldiers who needed to recover or rest for a while. And according to what he heard, each of the bases of the Alliance were attacked, and half of their forces were gone. The destruction wasn't something to take lightly. Loss, what he hated the most, was in front of him. If it was a simple loss, he would have been angry, but he wasn't even angry at this devastating loss. Please kill me, sir. Jonathan got on one knee and lowered his head. He was gritting his teeth. Ivan silently lowered his body and patted Jonathan's right shoulder. It was an empty shoulder wrapped with bandages. He felt a fire flare inside of him upon looking at it. Who was Jonathan? He was his subordinate who had stayed by his side when he had nothing and held a sword for the first time. No, he was his comrade, his family, and his only friend. Such a friend was in this state. Get up. But. Get up. Are you going to continue humiliating me like this? Jonathan raised himself up after receiving Ivan's help. However, because of his injury, his body was trembling. Ivan's face stiffened. The hoarder, you said? Yes. Not only did he dare to get in my way, he touched my people. I heard he was insolent, but I didn't know he was this arrogant. Ivan turned to look at his subordinate, who still had his head lowered. Yes, sir. Male lions led the clan and bared their teeth when his pride of lions was attacked. And when his teeth were bared, he attacked using everything he had. Send people to each base in the alliance. For the leaders to meet, that the Iron Lion wants to meet. Immediately. His teeth were bared, and if it seems like they're going to try to drop out. His sharp canines were visible through his lips. Tell them that they'll be ripped apart first. On Ivan's request, the leaders of each group gathered in the Iron Lion clan's camp. Lunatic, Stray Children, founder of 5 Stars, Night Run, each of them was a powerful clan. With Triton gone, some people said they might be the new emerging clans. However, each of the leaders' faces were dark. A devastating loss. They had suffered huge damages from Yi and Wu's counterattack. There were 4 people whose expressions couldn't be read. Iron Lion Ivan, Faceless, Dr. Doom, Nocturne. Ivan received the most damage, but as the king of the mercenary world and the person who called this gathering, he didn't let his emotions show. No, the Iron Lion clan was already called the greatest in the mercenary world. They could bear the damages they received. There were rumors that they were bringing more forces to the 20th floor. Faceless's expression couldn't be read because of the bandages, and Dr. Doom was participating on behalf on all the magic towers and magicians, so he kept his face in check. And Nocturne, the S-class mercenary, looked indifferent as always. Why's everyone standing around trying to look tough? It seems like everyone's here. I think it would be best to get started. In the quiet conference room, Faceless was the first to speak. Faceless spoke in a flippant attitude when a sword suddenly approached Faceless's neck. Clang! Ivan's sword just barely stopped in front of Faceless's neck. Gripping the bandages, Faceless's eyes flashed. What are you doing, Iron Lion? Faceless growled. A violent aura was exuded from him. It was the spirit of a humiliated warrior. Ivan didn't forget to warn Faceless despite the sudden change in the atmosphere. It's not me who's standing around trying to look tough, it's you guys. What? Ivan looked around him with intense eyes. The air was filled with a sharp aura. Faceless's eyes widened in surprise. Ivan was currently considered one of the superior rankers but lacking compared to the 9 kings. However, looking at him now, he seemed nearly as powerful as the 9 kings. That meant he was among the top 100 skilled players. Faceless, I heard you've been chasing after the hoarder, yet you didn't help our allies when they were being attacked. Faceless looked away and whistled. The situation was disadvantageous to Faceless. Like what Ivan said, Faceless had only chased after Yi and Wu with the chest of souls. It was to check what kind of abilities and souls Yi and Wu had. Ivan frowned at Faceless's attitude and turned to Dr. Doom and Nocturne. Dr. Doom, I heard you escaped with the magicians and Nocturne just observed the fight. Dr. Doom crossed his arms, not opening his mouth, and Nocturne narrowed his eyes. An emotion flashed across Nocturne's face for the first time. The desire to defeat the Iron Lion. He didn't hear anything else. All he was thinking of was how strong Ivan was. Nocturne was a hyena who only looked for strong people. The people considered to be the strongest here are only curious about the beyond studies the hoarder has or where my son is. You don't care about what happens to others. And Ivan trailed off and looked at the leaders around him. When they met Ivan in the eye, they either trembled or looked down. The same goes for others. Ivan spit out his next words. We're only an alliance in name. This isn't a real alliance. Rather, we're fine prey for him to chew apart. Quang! Ivan brought his fist down on the table. The roar of the lion heated up the atmosphere. From now on, I will not allow individual action. If you don't like it, leave. However, if I catch you here. Instead of speaking, Ivan bared his fangs. It was clear what he meant. If they didn't follow him, they would die. He was basically saying that he would take charge of the alliance. Each of the leaders of the clans looked at the remaining 3 people. Faceless and Dr. Doom were a part of the new stars. They wouldn't like someone being above them. Nocturne probably felt the same, too. However, Faceless shrugged without saying much, and Dr. Doom nodded. Nocturne looked at Ivan in the eye but didn't say anything. The alliance was now in Ivan's hands without any opposition. Ivan's blazing eyes were on the three whose thoughts couldn't be read. Just then, Kwang, the door burst open, and someone came frantically running in. A mercenary of the Iron Lion. All gazes turned to him. An urgent report. What is it, young master? No, Blood Sword Khan has been found. Everyone stood up. Ivan didn't miss how Faceless's eyes flashed peculiarly in that moment. Open hollow corner bracket. What in the world is Kane doing? Khan's eyes widened as he looked at the different battles happening in the stage. The net to capture him had loosened, so he was wondering what was happening. When he looked down below, something unexpected was going on. Yi and Wu, Victoria, and the Ice King were working together to rip the net apart. Far away, he could see the Iron Lion crumbling at a fast pace. Khan had a bitter smile. Although he had left them, the people there were like family. Jonathan was like a kind uncle to him, so he hoped he wasn't badly hurt in the fight with Yi and Wu. Open hollow corner bracket. Still. It's a relief Nuna doesn't seem to be that hurt. He sighed in relief. After leaving Victoria behind like that, he had constantly been worried. It seemed Yi and Wu had helped her in time. He ended up using them unintentionally, but he was still grateful and apologetic. It wasn't that long until he could save Doyle now. Open hollow corner bracket. I've gathered enough. Khan spread his palm open. Multiple pieces of the Ruyi Bang floated up and combined into one. They were pieces he was able to obtain because Yi and Wu and the others stalled time for him. It was more than what he had given Gain. The small fish were gone, and only the big ones were remaining, so he had been able to gather more in a shorter amount of time. With this, the sacrificial vessel could be completed. Kindred was already at their meeting place. All he had to do was head there. Pat, recalling the piece of the Ruyi Bang, Khan began to move again. His destination was the Monkey King's palace, the place where the shedding of the Monkey King resided. It was where he and the others had visited a long time ago. With Yi and Wu diverting attention away from him, he would be able to get there easily. Shriek. High above in the sky, a red bird discovered Khan and cried out. Open hollow corner bracket. Master. I found Khan. Chapter 333. Descendants of the Monkey King. 8. Team. HH, Yahiko, Thursdays 1/10. Khan stepped back when something flashed by him. At first, he thought it was an attack from enemies and moved his hand to his sword. Open hollow corner bracket. High. It was a legendary bird of red and black that looked like it was going to blaze up any second, a mythical beast you could only see on the 11th floor. However, unlike its appearance, the tone it spoke in was young. Open hollow corner bracket. I'm Nike. Nice to meet you, Master. No, Yian, I mean. I have a message from Kane, wanna listen? Khan's eyes widened at the unexpected name. He says his closed training will last a bit longer. Is that so? Kreutz nodded in understanding at the reply from the first squad. He knew the regiment leader was going through an important time in his life. A wall. Countless players cried tears of joy or felt despair and hopelessness from that difference. Some people climbed it easily while others died without ever being able to overcome it. That was what a wall was. Kreutz had tried to jump over his many times, but he hadn't been able to in the end. But the great 9 kings jumped over it once, or 3 to 4 times. That was what it meant to be supernatural. The regiment leader took back what he said about his closed training being short and sent word that it would be a while. It seemed he had finished refining the ends but not the actual body. Instead, he sent this. Thank you, I'll be off, sir. The player from the first squad delivered the letter to Kreutz and disappeared with a bow. Kreutz carefully opened the letter and read the paper inside of it. As you wish. It was too short of an answer, considering the time it took for him to receive it. Kreutz found himself laughing. He's the same as ever. Thankfully, he was able to clear up his complicated mind. The question Kreutz had asked the regiment leader was this. Do I have to continue following the hoarder? From what Kreutz saw, Yi and Wu was too dangerous a person. He could understand his fight with Benteke. It was a battle of wits among the new rising players. Benteke and Triton had picked the fight first. However, the real problem followed. He had cleared the 30th hidden stage for some mysterious reason and reached Tartarus to meet Hades. He had also met the Gluttony Emperor to promise to fight with them against White Dragon. The same was going on now. While he was absent for a while, Yi and Wu was causing commotion on the 20th floor. They said the hoarder was always to the action. It seemed the rumors were true. Of course, he could understand up to that point. New rising players would be threatened by forces around them, and players who wanted to become strong didn't stay still and clashed with others. The problem, though, the power he has. Kreutz was able to observe a small part of Yi and Wu's power while following him. He used strange shadows and showed the potential of a lord while moving his souls. The potential of a supernaturalist with the sword technique he had learned from the martial king's Mugong. Furthermore, the possibility of being an apostle from several gods. Lord, supernaturalist, apostle. Out of the three conditions that had to be met to reach the supernatural state, he had all three at the same time. Among those, there was the power of death that Kreutz had never seen before. A power that wasn't something a mortal player should be able to use. He was too dangerous to keep him close. Kreutz's eyes turned darker. And even I haven't seen all of it. The hoarder is dangerous. The regiment leader said the hoarder was his close friend and savior, so Kreutz wanted to support what Yi and Wu did. He thought Yi and Wu would join the fantasy regiment or become their firm ally. But from what he saw until now, if they began to work with Yi and Wu, the damage and pressure the fantasy regiment would receive would be detrimental. That was the reason they hadn't moved on to the higher floors and remained on the lower floors. It was to avoid the attention of the 8 large clans and secretly grow their power. They couldn't break their rule because of one person. However, this was the reply that came back. As he wished. It meant that the regiment leader wouldn't impose his will on Kreutz. In a way, it looked like he was respecting his comrades, and at the same time, it seemed irresponsible, like he was giving his duties to someone else. The regiment leader was the same as ever. Kreutz fell deep into contemplation while holding the letter. If he did what he wanted, he would no longer support Yi and Wu. But still, the times he had spent with him flashed before his eyes while he tried to make a decision. From the River of Souls to Tartarus. The journey was dangerous but made his heart beat faster. More than anything, there was something about Yi and Wu that drew people towards him. Like a king. Still, seeing how he desperately pleaded for Kaini in front of Hades, it seemed as if he had a long backstory. It was natural to want to follow such a person and see how he ended up, like a moth drawn to a flame. He was too fearsome to be kept close but too interesting to watch from far away. He's like the regiment leader in this way. No, these thoughts might have been what the regiment leader was aiming for. Making a decision, Kreutz folded the letter into his breast pocket and called for a subordinate outside. Kun, yes, sir. Did you call for me? A subordinate waiting outside came in and bowed his head. Is the hoarder still on the 20th floor? Yes, sir. Call the knightage. We're going to the 20th floor. Yes, sir. And like that, the fantasy regiment began to make its move. On the bloodied mountain, corpses lying all over the ground indicated there had been a rough battle. What a monster. The person the players were looking at didn't seem like a human. Everyone nodded in agreement that he seemed like a monster. There was fear in their eyes. Ha! Ha! Yi and Wu panted, drenched in blood. His health and magic power were nearly drained because he had fought against so many players. But the aura around him was still fierce. It felt as if one would immediately die if one went into his attack range. And because the players knew that really would happen, none of them could easily approach Yi and Wu. No, even with that aside, the martial arts Yi and Wu had shown them was replaying in their heads. How many clans had suffered losses, and how many people had fallen? Horrifying monsters came from the shadows and led them deep into despair. The rumors that the hoarder might already be a lord were proving to be true. A lord who created a one-man army and easily defeated most clans. Moreover, the hoarder was showing potential as a supernaturalist, as the martial king's disciple. Whether they tried to fight one-on-one or work with each other against Yi and Wu, he couldn't be defeated. Furthermore, there's still something left. They could feel it in their bones. Yi and Wu wasn't using his full strength. If he had hidden 30% of his power despite the fight becoming this rough, it would only be disadvantageous to them. Additionally, the people who were helping Yi and Wu were Red Deodara and Ice King, famous, skilled players. There wasn't a way to get past them. They stayed in that condition, not able to attack or fall back. If you don't come, Yi and Wu's eyes shined violently. I'll go. He was breathing in a more comfortable voice after having rested enough. The players who were creating a net around him stepped back instinctively. Smirk. Seeing them, the Ice King laughed lightly. It was a laughter closer to pity than amusement. The players standing in the front turned red. They were about to shout, wanting to redeem themselves. Suddenly, pew, pew, fireworks exploded in the sky. Red fireworks. The players' faces turned stiff. It was the command to retreat. The leaders had hesitant faces, wondering whether to leave or not, but they gave the order to fall back upon deeming that they couldn't continue to fight like this. Everyone, retreat. While the players stepped back, they moved quickly in case Yi and Wu and the others attacked them as they ran. After the Ice King confirmed that everyone was gone, he tilted his head in confusion. Why is everyone going back? Well, whatever, I can rest now. The Ice King looked down at his bloody, shaking hand. He couldn't remember the last time he had fought this roughly. He smiled bitterly. He had joined Yi and Wu's side because there wasn't anything he could do, but he felt refreshed. It seemed a martial artist was still a martial artist even if one was old. But it was true that he was tired more easily. If the fight continued from here, he might have fallen first. Victoria's face didn't look too good either. Using the adamantine nova with an injured body wasn't easy on her. She was also relieved that they retreated, but she felt curious as to why they did. If the fight went on longer, Yi and Wu's party would have been the ones in danger. Victoria and the Ice King turned to Yi and Wu. Yi and Wu was also tired, so he plopped down on the floor and caught his breath. His overheated philosopher's stone supplied him with magic power. What he said after surprised the other two greatly. They're probably stepping back because they found Khan. They found Khan. Victoria burst up in surprise. Thump, thump, her heart started to beat faster. The face that she had seen for a short while. The hope that she could see that face again grew in her heart. Yes, for now. Where is he? You know it well. I do. Victoria tilted his head. The mountains were indeed familiar to her. But for Yi and Wu to pick it out. Could it be? Her face slightly became pale. Yi and Wu nodded heavily. Yes, it's the Monkey King's palace. Quote exclamation mark quote. Victoria's grip tightened on the adamantine nova. Memories of back then suddenly popped into her head. The dangerous movements of the stone statue. Rebecca's death. Yi and Wu's sacrifice. The escape with Khan. And running away, alone. It was the place that gave her nightmares. But, she was still scared to go there, but if she could save Khan, she had to go. Yi and Wu nodded in relief. Actually, if he saw her trembling, he had planned to take the adamantine nova from her and force her to go back. But she had done everything she needed to while they were in battle. The Ice King tilted his head, not following. The Monkey King's palace? What's that? Yi and Wu began to explain the Monkey King's palace. The Ice King's eyes deepened after hearing everything. Where the 72 Bian are from? Yes, it's where I got my Rui Bang piece. So it's similar to the Monkey King's temple. Monkey King's temple. Yi and Wu became curious at the Ice King's muttering. There's a place. It's outside of the tower. To be exact, it's the temple of the 7 demon kings, but it's called the Monkey King's temple among the apostles. It's surrounded with barriers to prevent outsiders from entering. Yi and Wu thought of the place where he had first looked for traces of Khan. Are you talking about where the statues of the 7 demon kings are? Yes. Do you know it? Yes. But I couldn't feel anything. That place is already looted. It's well known, too. There's probably almost nothing left. Yi and Wu thought the Ice King seemed a bit sad. It was probably from the shame of being only a half-descendant. And also, a thought occurred to him. So the Monkey King didn't leave his traces in just 1 or 2 places. He had thought the same thing when he had left the Monkey King's palace. The shedding had also said that the Monkey King had left several places for his descendants. Yi and Wu made a note to go back to the temple and look around closely. When he first went, he had pretty much been chased out, so he might have missed something. Anyways, why would the blood sword go there? The reason is simple. Quote question mark quote. It'll be the base of the devil army, the people behind all this. There was one reason why Khan had shown himself. Because it was his final destination. And, in that place, Doyle, Yi and Wu's eyes flashed. After their short break, they headed towards the 5th mountain immediately. It was to prevent the Alliance from getting there first. Thankfully, it seemed there was no trap set up when they got there. People probably couldn't set a trap because it was hard for rankers to approach here in the first place. All senses were closed, and only consciousness could be opened. Yi and Wu unleashed all his consciousness and began to search for the entrance to the Monkey King's palace. Yi and Wu had destroyed the entrance when he left with the inheritance so others couldn't approach it, so he had to find a new entrance. Open corner bracket your temper led to this. Yup, what a shame. Shut up. While he was scolding the mocking Shannon, Yi and Wu was able to find the entrance with Nike's help. Nike had been following Khan all this time. You have entered the hidden stage, the Monkey King's palace. A hidden stage, not a dungeon. Yi and Wu's eyes became bigger at the changed name. As if they were expected, someone quietly walked out from the entrance and greeted Yi and Wu's party. Open hollow corner bracket U. Open hollow corner bracket long time no see, Kane. Khan greeted them happily. Chapter 334 Descendants of the Monkey King 9. Open hollow corner bracket Khan. Victoria ran forward to hug Khan, but her body passed through his. Open hollow corner bracket this is. Open hollow corner bracket a shadow he left behind. Yi and Wu muttered, watching the fading Khan. It was an illusion made using the 72 Bian. Taking into consideration the trick Khan left in the letter, it seemed Khan was better than Yi and Wu in Bian studies. Khan's shadow smiled bitterly and lowered himself to look Victoria in the eye. Open hollow corner bracket are you alright, Nuna? Open hollow corner bracket you. Open hollow corner bracket sorry I left in a rush back then. But I guess I'm a lucky person, huh? I have friends who'll jump into danger for me. Khan laughed brightly like his usual self and turned to Yi and Wu. Open hollow corner bracket first. Since kindred might notice, I'll get to the point directly. Yi and Wu nodded. Open hollow corner bracket you heard the details from Nike, right? Open hollow corner bracket yeah. Nike was currently with Khan. Yi and Wu was able to hear about the situation Khan was in from Nike. A sacrificial vessel. The fight around the vessel. Doyle was being held by the Devil Army, and Khan had been busy trying to rescue him. Khan had been going through a difficult trial, so he hadn't been able to tell anyone. Through Nike, Yi and Wu explained what he had planned to Khan. Open hollow corner bracket I left this shadow behind to ask you for a favor. Open hollow corner bracket what is it? Open hollow corner bracket it's. Khan opened his mouth to speak. Open hollow corner bracket so it's here. Ivan squinted in the narrow entrance of the cave. It felt like everything would be sucked in by the abyss. Nothing could be felt. He couldn't sense anything despite shooting his consciousness in. Open hollow corner bracket yes. He definitely went in here. Jonathan nodded heavily next to him. The alliance had restructured itself under Ivan's command. Then, they waited until Yi and Wu arrived where Khan was. They knew Yi and Wu's target was Khan, so they decided that it was efficient to catch both of them when they were together. Faceless and Dr. Doom didn't say anything about it. They weren't going to lead the forces at the front lines anyway, and the same went for Nocturne. Ivan frowned at their uncaring attitude. They weren't helping, but they weren't just sitting around either. Open hollow corner bracket were heading in. And since they didn't do anything to be scolded for, he couldn't hold them responsible. No, he could do that when everything was finished. Right now, he had to focus on catching Yi and Wu and Khan. They had trapped themselves in a small fence, so it would be easier to catch them. According to Ivan's command, about 300 of the strongest players got in line and began to step into the cage. Chech. Open hollow corner bracket it's really ominous. Open hollow corner bracket was this place always here? The players frowned as they looked around. No matter how much they expanded their consciousness, they couldn't feel anything. There wasn't much they could feel other than themselves and the people near them. It was like walking in the dead of night without light. They were proud of themselves for being strong enough not to be scared at most things, but an anxiousness began to creep in their minds. Open hollow corner bracket sir, will you be alright? A robed magician quietly approached Dr. Doom and whispered. There were many magicians in the 300 strongest players that Ivan had designated. They were not only black magicians from Necropolis but also the strongest from each magic tower. But that didn't mean they were strong fighters or good at combat. Especially in this hidden stage filled with darkness, rash movements were strictly forbidden. From what the magicians saw, the cave that Yi and Wu and Khan had entered was filled with mysteries. The path was curvy, and no matter how many tracking spells they casted, they all disappeared in the air. They felt like if they shot forward any more of their consciousness, their souls would be sucked in the deep cave. Because they were magicians, they knew what it was. Emptiness. Also a space called void. No, it couldn't even be called a space. There was nothing there, and the nothing swallowed all. They didn't understand why Yi and Wu and Khan had entered it. However, one thing they knew for sure was that if they continued to walk into the void, they would be in danger. Open hollow corner bracket there was nothing bad in today's card. Open hollow corner bracket then. Open hollow corner bracket but there wasn't anything good. Dr. Doom's eyes flashed intensely. Open hollow corner bracket this means our divination for today depends on us. And without Bian, we won't have any divinations in the future. Open hollow corner bracket yes, sir. I said something I shouldn't have. I apologize. The different fields of magic split up and combined again. Magicians walked what they believed was the path of truth. But recently, the magic towers had changed their minds and desired to combine all their power. The latest events of the tower impacted the magic towers, and they decided that they needed to become anew. Each magic tower had sent their strongest to create a new organization. Necropolis. And they put Dr. Doom, who was familiar with all magic, on the leader's seat. But it's more dangerous now to create a new foothold. It wasn't easy to combine the different paths of magic into one. The knowledge, formation, and basis of the magic were different. To overcome their limits, they needed new knowledge. In Dr. Doom's eyes, it was Bian, the hidden card to grow their limited magic. Unless Faust's mage technique comes back. The new field of magic that had opened new horizons for magic studies along with de Roy's demon studies. Some said that Faust had even devoured the demon and monster king, Mephistopheles, but after his sudden disappearance, he became a story passed down in myths. His power was the root of the divination that Dr. Doom frequently checked, and it was what he had promised himself to achieve. Open hollow corner bracket. Even if we can't obtain Bian's studies, we can't let anyone else get it. Dr. Doom looked at Faceless, who was laughing like a lunatic, and Nocturne, who he couldn't read. Most players in this alliance were after the Bian or honor, but he couldn't tell why those two had come. He couldn't help but be wary of them. Especially Faceless, who seemed like a combination of many different identities, was the person that Dr. Doom considered the most dangerous. Open hollow corner bracket. He cast magic in front of him in an attempt to search deep in the cage again and widened his eyes. Open hollow corner bracket. What's this? There was nothing, neither around him nor anywhere. Open hollow corner bracket. There was nothing about this in the divination. The subordinate he had just been speaking with was gone. All he felt was darkness. Vines of the void from inside of the cave wrapped around him. That moment, open hollow corner bracket up. Dr. Doom whipped his body around. Magic circles were drawn in the air and destroyed the attacks from the darkness. Pooh, but because the impact was too great, Dr. Doom wasn't able to avoid it all and was blown away. Blood spilled from his mouth. Magic power quickly circulated around his body and bound his broken bones together, his dislocated shoulder spinning back into its position. Shock filled his face. What was that? Open corner bracket. You read that. I am impressive. Just then, two lines were drawn in the middle of the air, and they opened to reveal blue eyes. Open corner bracket. Is it that the heart of another species? Sephiroth Kabbalah. Mysterious studies into a magic circle. Has the world improved? Dr. Doom's eyes trembled. That was how his signature skill, the random magic circle release, was made. How had it been recognized instantly? When he met the Inferno sight in the sky, his head turned blank. It was that, in the fight against Yi and Wu on the 30th floor, the eyes that had bound his magic power, magic circles, and his divinations. Those eyes. He realized it was the monster who trapped over 300 members in the emptiness and isolated him. Open hollow corner bracket. What are you? Open corner bracket. You're not. You're a mutant. Another secret was revealed. Dr. Doom calmed his trembling hand and flicked his thumb. About 10 magic circles floated up above him. The Inferno sight narrowed its eyes and muttered, not caring. Like a child observing ants. Open corner bracket. You're a toy, trying to imitate me. How amusing, you fools. Open hollow corner bracket. What? Imitate who? Open corner bracket. On top of trying to bother master's plan, I'll punish you for your foolishness. The Inferno sight flamed up, growing bigger. Open corner bracket. Shall we? Kwong. Dr. Doom felt like the space around him was being forced apart. When he came to attention, his limbs were all twisted. The magic circles wrapped around him were all cracked. No, that person is. After realizing Boo's identity, the mental shock was greater than the physical pain he felt. The similar scene was happening across the cave. Open hollow corner bracket. Dreams dusk. On Nemesis's words, the void settled down and separated the players. This was the Monkey King's palace. Yi and Wu was the only person who knew how everything was set up from the entrance to the quarters in the center. It was a trap he had made because he knew that void was always in the air. Open hollow corner bracket. Kaok. Open hollow corner bracket. What's this? Open hollow corner bracket. Ak. Save me. Players couldn't get a grip on themselves as monster portents poured onto them from the darkness. Crunch, crunch, they were slaughtered. No matter how hard they tried to resist, there was no way to catch the monster portents that disappeared back in the void and attacked their blind spots. The moment they were injured, they died from being poisoned. That wasn't the end of it. Clack, clack, rumble. The abyss began to open in different places. Ashy fog spewed out, and something dark showed itself. Undeads consisting of skeletons, ghouls, and zombies. It was an army of death in armor. Dungeon release. Boo's hidden dungeon had opened up. Open hollow corner bracket. What is this? Ivan ripped apart the darkness that kept on sticking on him. But what appeared after was a countless number of undead that filled the cave. His face hardened at the extraordinary phenomenon. Chech. Just then, pieces of the void gathered into a large shape. What Ivan saw was incredibly shocking despite all the experience he had under his belt. Boom! A red and black foot stomped forward. Wings of bones spread apart, and a horrible toxic gas floated over towards him. There were only bones left behind, but its aura was just as strong as when it was living. Craw! The dragon that came out into the world for the first time roared. Dragon fear spread out. The surrounding territory has been chosen as your domain. Current condition: Void Nemesis. Curse: Wandering, has succeeded. Curse: Fear, has succeeded. Curse: Madness has succeeded. Curse: Illusion, has succeeded. The authority, Faceless Law, has activated. Hunden is very glad. TN, Hunden will be changed to Hunden for accuracy. A message from Agaris has arrived. Message: You're different from the others. A message from Agaris has arrived. Message: Try using mine, too. You'll get a better result. The authority, Hyongshan Axel, has been activated. The curses have been strengthened. The curses have been strengthened. All gods of death nod at you. All demons of death whistle at you. The demonic society, Jia sect, expresses deep goodwill towards you. The demonic society, L, Infernal, is happy. Vimala Citra of Jia sect observes you carefully. A small number of demons start to look closely at you. More demons offer authorities to you than before. Your directory of possible authorities has been updated. Current authorities, 512. Chapter 335 Descendants of the Monkey King 10. Athena is silent. Yi and Wu smiled coldly at the messages pouring in. Dungeon release. He had prepared it with Boo but had never opened it. The results were better than he expected. The void that Nemesis brought made everyone panic, and monster portents jumped in to fan the fire. With the dungeon added on top, it was like dropping a bomb on top of their heads. The soldiers died and died. Mercenaries backed on a cliff were melted from minus energy and turned into Boo's energy. Ivan, whom he had been worrying about the most, was struggling against the bone dragon with Shannon riding atop it. I was worried because it was incomplete, but this is way better than I expected. You have gained souls. You have gained souls. New souls were filling up the collection as fast as they were being drained. In fact, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say the entire battlefield was in Boo's palm. He had set up a trap knowing the Alliance was chasing after him. It helped that he hadn't shown them his full strength. And my list of authorities is longer. Were they mostly sent by gods and demons of death? I should take a closer look at it later. He already had 4 authorities, but since he had raised their proficiency, it was time to look for additional ones. Actually, Yi and Wu didn't want to accept any more authorities, so he didn't care about the list getting longer. The reason was simple: he wasn't confident he could master all of them. And once he did accept it, the interference of the authority's owner would increase. He didn't want to be limited in his actions. However, with his skills more developed and his body more fit, he thought it would be alright to take additional authorities. Authorities had the identity of gods and demons. Just by accepting and using them, he could grow. Although, the owner would interfere. It wouldn't be bad to accept more authorities to make gods and demons wary of each other. The gods and demons of death were already interested because of the Black King. Whether he had the authorities or not, his actions would be limited. If so, it wouldn't be bad to accept all of them and make the gods and demons wary of each other. In the case of one trying to step up, other gods and demons would stop it. The tables would be turned. While Yi and Wu was busy checking the list of authorities that amounted to over 500. Open hollow corner bracket. I was wise to choose this side. The Ice King side. This was it, the reason he had surrendered as soon as he saw Yi and Wu. Technically, the Ice King and Yi and Wu might not have been that different ability-wise. However, he knew what would happen if they were enemies. Yi and Wu's master, the Martial King, had been exactly like that. No, he's worse than the Martial King when he was in his prime. It was an extreme relief that they weren't enemies. The monster portents he had were horrifying enough, but to think he could control ghosts and skeletons, too. The bone dragon was especially jaw-dropping. If his guess was right, that bone dragon was. The Ice King stopped his thoughts there and shook his head. It was best not to dive any deeper. That was the lesson he had learned during his lifetime as a mercenary. Victoria looked at the cave with silent eyes. Above the space where the adamantine nova was rotating, they could see the mercenaries dying off. The problem was that the slaughter wouldn't end there. Considering all the players on the stage, the 300 players sent into the cage were just the tip of the iceberg. Thinking about the people that would be sent in the second and third waves, it would be no exaggeration to say that the mercenaries, magicians, and bounty hunters on the stage would be swept away. And afterwards, what kind of chaos would follow in the hoarder's wake? Open hollow corner bracket. We stalled for time with this, but it's not over yet. When Yi and Wu opened his mouth, Victoria and the Ice King shook themselves and turned to him. Open hollow corner bracket. Victoria. Open hollow corner bracket. Yeah. You're going to look for the Monkey King's shedding now, right? Victoria thought of the conversation she had with Khan's shadow and Yi and Wu. I left this shadow behind to ask you for a favor. What is it? It's Doyle. Khan's shadow paused and put emphasis on his next words. Save Doyle. The conversation that began with those words explained everything that Khan had been through and what was going on inside of the cave. And exactly how many soldiers of the Devil Army were inside the Monkey King's palace. There are 5 bishops in the central palace. They're waiting for the signal. Their goal is the completion of the sacrificial vessel. It's a vessel to contain the Monkey King's shedding beyond this palace. And they're planning on bringing the heavenly demon subordinate, the dragon god. The materials needed are the Rui Bang pieces. That's why I was ordered to gather them all this time. However, there needs to be a ceremony to hold the shedding in the vessel. So they sacrificed humans across all of the 5 mountains. They used the dead players as offerings, while also gathering pieces at the same time. It was all hard to believe. Vessel, shedding, ceremony, human sacrifice. But in a way, it was expected of the Devil Army. They were a religious group, no, cult, serving the heavenly demon, so it wasn't strange for them to go through with such a religious service. Doyle is in there, unconscious. When the service starts, I'll block off Kindred and the others, so in the meantime, save Doyle. The words in the letter said to help Doyle. However, Yi and Wu didn't respond right away. Instead, he asked another question. Why did the Devil Army take Doyle? Khan's shadow paused and replied in a dark voice. Doyle is a candidate for the new head bishop's body. With those words, the shadow disappeared. It was probably because Khan's actual body had gone deeper in the cave and was blocked by the void. Yi and Wu was deep in thought for a long time, like he was contemplating something. And after some time passed, he began to move again, leaving the preparation to block the chase of the alliance. What is he trying to do? Victoria thought Yi and Wu might have some kind of plan. However, she didn't know what it was. Open hollow corner bracket. Please watch over this place. Yi and Wu sat on the floor and closed his eyes. Like Yi and Wu asked, Victoria set up a barrier and got ready for any sudden attack. The Ice King stood guard with sharp eyes. Above them, wind gathered, and Rebecca appeared and disappeared again. Yi and Wu's consciousness settled down. He recalled the consciousness he expanded outside and trod through each of his senses. He could feel all kinds of vestiges complexly tied up together, including his. He had attempted to get rid of all traces of the 72 Bian last time, but it seemed like there were still some left behind. They could be called evil Nian. Yi and Wu held on to the ones that felt clearest. Then, it felt like his body was floating up. You have succeeded in leaving your body. You are leaving the limits of your physical body. There are limits to your stats because of your new condition. Your current condition is unstable. You are a living being. If you do not return to your body within the set time or go too far away, you may die. 0 hours 30 minutes and 0 seconds. 0 hours 29 minutes and 59 seconds. 99. 0 hours 29 minutes and 59 seconds. 98. Your understanding of souls has increased. When he looked down, he could see himself sitting crisscrossed with Victoria and the Ice King protecting him. It's interesting to see myself like this. It was only possible because they were near the Monkey King's shedding. Yi and Wu turned his head in another direction. He was only given 30 minutes. He had to take care of business before then and return. Far beyond, into the abyss, something was calling him. Like the story of how the little girl climbed up the rope to avoid the tiger, Yin Wu ascended while holding on to the signal. Then, many things spread under him. The place he was in became smaller. He could see the alliance fighting Boo, many intertwined paths like ant tunnels, and the second squad that now began to enter the entrance. Then, Yin Wu felt himself being absorbed somewhere else. The world around him changed. Wag, open hollow corner bracket. Yin Wu found himself in a familiar place. A mountain with fruit trees and waxberry trees. An exotic utopia with warm sunlight and fresh breezes. It was Mount Wagwo, open hollow corner bracket Monkey King. Monkey King, are you here? Khan had said that he would try to stop the ceremony and that Yin Wu should save Doyle during that time. It was a feint operation. But from what Yin Wu saw, that was dangerous. The devil army wouldn't be fooled that easily. More than anything, the strategy Khan suggested required his sacrifice. Saving Doyle and sacrificing Khan. Khan could think that it was an obvious choice, but to Yin Wu, it was like throwing Khan away. So Yin Wu was going to flip Khan's strategy around. The best thing would be to abort the ceremony. If he hid the Monkey King's shedding before the ceremony began, then everything the devil army did would go up in flames. Then, there would be some chaos, and he would have time to think of a method to save both Khan and Doyle. But, he's not here. Yin Wu's face hardened. Where is he? Yin Wu searched the mountain with his wings of fire, but he couldn't find the Monkey King's shedding anywhere. There weren't any traces of him. It was quiet, like an abandoned world. However, this was definitely the imaginary world that the shedding had created. If the owner of the world disappeared, the world would have crumbled as well. Then where was he? Was he already moved into the vessel? No, the ceremony hasn't begun yet. Then, Nike would have let him know. I don't see the blue dragon either. The dragon god, Sheng, who was the heavenly demon's subordinate, couldn't be seen either. 0 hours 12 minutes and 29 seconds. 41. Meanwhile, the clock was still ticking. Just when he was thinking that he should return soon. Pat, suddenly, light shined in front of Yin Wu, and something small floated up. The power within it was dynamic. It was a familiar power. Open hollow corner bracket Sheng. The power of the dragon god. The form shook in response like it was nodding, and it suddenly began to move quickly. Yin Wu quickly chased after it with his wings of fire. It was so fast that he could only follow after it using wind path gale and blink consecutively. Where he arrived was a small cave off from Mount Wagwo. Open hollow corner bracket, are you telling me to go in here? URNG. The form shook again and disappeared. Yin Wu narrowed his eyes and entered the cave. It was damp in a different way from the Monkey King's palace. However, the path wasn't that long, so he quickly arrived at the end. Arg, I'm not doing it. It's annoying, so why do you keep? Open hollow corner bracket Monkey King. Huh, it was you. The Monkey King was sitting on the ground, his body wrapped in chains. Was it really him? Unlike when they first met, he looked so feeble. The Monkey King looked at Yin Wu through his messy hair and cringed. This is embarrassing. Chapter 336 Descendants of the Monkey King 11. Team, HH, Yahiko, Thursdays 4/10. Flock. Khan stumbled at the pain of his cheek being slapped, but he didn't fall and regained his balance. Fortunately, the pieces in his hand didn't drop to the floor. Kindred smirked at him. Open hollow corner bracket, do you think things will change? That I don't know what you're thinking. Open hollow corner bracket, it's a misunderstanding. Open hollow corner bracket, a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Kindred scoffed. Flock. He hit Khan's other cheek. This time, it was so painful that Khan felt like his neck was twisted. The inside of his mouth was torn, and he could taste blood. Open hollow corner bracket, I really don't like that word. Regardless of Khan's condition, Kindred's eyes were flashing sharply. Open hollow corner bracket, you can use that word for anything. It's a misunderstanding. I think there's been a misunderstanding. If you use that word, it excuses you from anything. Right. Open hollow corner bracket again, it's all a misunderstanding. Open hollow corner bracket, really? What an omnipotent word. Kindred flicked his finger. The pieces of the Ruyi Bang in Khan's palm floated up and whirled above him. Open hollow corner bracket, sure. Try doing whatever you want. People should always take the chances they get. You won't be bored then. A man behind Kindred quietly stepped up and held something out. It was a golden sphere. The sphere began to shine. The pieces whirling above gathered towards it and landed in the hollow parts of the sphere. Clack, clack, the sacrificial vessel slowly took shape. There were hundreds of pieces gathered, so it couldn't be called a piece anymore. Khan looked at it with his jaw clenched. Of the pieces, there were some that the Devil Army used to own, but 40% of it was what he had obtained after going through near-death situations. For the last few years, he had acted as the Devil Army's assassin. He killed any descendants the Devil Army discovered and took their pieces. He didn't even want to think about how many people he had killed in that process. But every time, Kindred was happier. A bloodied piece would have more grudges. He said there was no better material to finish the vessel. Khan may have been a demon, but Kindred was an even greater demon. The heavenly demon, he felt like he knew why the divine being was deep in slumber, not responding to their calls. Who would like such lunatics? The current head bishop was the one who disposed of the previous head bishop, Black Dawn, and some other bishops to sit on the throne. He didn't have a legitimate tie to the throne, so he had to depend on the heavenly demon. No matter how much others called him a heretic, if he received the favor of the heavenly demon, he would be legitimate. But the heavenly demon didn't listen to the head bishop's desperate pleas. So the head bishop had to use another way. If the heavenly demon didn't respond, he could find the other faces of the heavenly demon and serve them. Khan, who was only a sword wielder, didn't know the exact teachings of the Devil Army. However, he did know that whenever the heavenly demon was reincarnated through samsara, he would teach important things to the world or learn something to make his soul even more complete. He also knew that the Devil Army called those other faces of the heavenly demon. It was a term for the previous lives of the heavenly demon. The Monkey King was one of the strongest lives of the heavenly demon. Of course the head bishop desired the Monkey King. But the real Monkey King had disappeared when the heavenly demon entered into a slumber, so bringing his shedding was the wisest choice. They would do it with the sacrificial ceremony. Everything was prepared. The shedding was bound tightly with divine iron because he refused to leave the palace, and sacrifices were spread throughout the mountains for his descent. The altar was prepared. Fire burned in the bronze braziers. All the officials of the Devil Army, the bishops, diocesan bishops, high priests, normal priests, and honorary priests, were there. Now, only the prayer ceremony was left. The moment the descent succeeded, they would immediately exterminate all the insects that dirtied the holy territory in the 5 mountains. And after that, let's not think about it. Khan shut his eyes. They probably wouldn't be able to succeed with the prayer ceremony. He wouldn't let them. That, in itself, would cause a commotion, but he didn't want to think about what came next. Open hollow corner bracket. You said the insects in this sacred place have nothing to do with you. Kindred opened his mouth, looking at the shining sacrificial vessel. Khan opened his shut eyes and bowed. Open hollow corner bracket. Yes, sir. Sacred place. He was talking about the Monkey King's palace. Yi and Wu's party and the chasers were insects that needed to be taken care of for daring to step into such a sacred place. Open hollow corner bracket. Then come back after you get rid of them all. Only then will you get what you want. Kindred's gaze turned towards the altar. In front of the bronze braziers, a robed man was praying. His youthful face could be seen through the slight movement of the robe. There was a subtle light shining around him. He looked like a saint. Khan grit his teeth and bowed. Open hollow corner bracket. Thank you for trusting me. Open hollow corner bracket. You 3, follow him. 4, 5, 6. 3 apostles followed Khan. Khan left the central palace with them in tow. Kindred snorted, looking at Khan walk away, and slowly moved to the finished sacrificial vessel. The remaining 3rd bishop quietly followed him. Open hollow corner bracket. Why are you letting him live? He's a hunting dog who can't be used anymore. Obviously, the Devil Army wasn't planning on upholding their promise, even if Khan did all they asked. Doyle was an important key who would lead them to a new era. They needed to take care of Khan quietly. Open hollow corner bracket. Who said I'm letting him live? Kindred snorted. Open hollow corner bracket. We're in front of a holy altar. We've already given plenty of sacrifices. Is there a need to use dirty blood? It'll just be bad luck. Open hollow corner bracket. I didn't think about it deeply enough. The 3rd bishop belatedly realized Kindred's plans. He was planning on cleaning Khan up after all the insects were taken care of. Khan would be tired then, so he wouldn't be able to avoid it. Open hollow corner bracket. Then let's begin the ceremony. Kindred walked up the 5 stairs and put the completed sacrificial vessel on the altar. He wasn't the one leading the prayer ceremony. His role was only one of a butler who helped the one in charge lead it smoothly. Open hollow corner bracket. The man praying in front of the altar slowly took off his robe. Doyle raised his head with pupilless eyes. Then, he opened his mouth. Open hollow corner bracket, please answer. Other face of the heavenly demon. Open hollow corner bracket. Ah. Are you okay? While leaving through the entrance, Khan heard Nike's voice and nodded subtly. It was a small movement, so the bishops next to him didn't notice. Yeah, I'm fine, so don't worry. Nike had been in Khan's mind, quietly resting there. Nike was such an innocent and kind child. Khan wondered how a guy like Yin-Woo had been able to meet him. He must have activated holy fire because the injury in his mouth quickly healed. Khan was about to thank him when Nike carefully spoke up. Open hollow corner bracket. Hey. Yeah, open hollow corner bracket. What kind of friend is Doyle? Nike wondered if he had asked something he shouldn't have. But Khan laughed lightly and answered nonchalantly. A hateful bastard. Open hollow corner bracket. Hateful. Khan could feel that Nike was curious about why he was saving him if he was so hateful. His smile deepened. Yeah, he's hateful. He never listens to me and talks back. I can't beat him up either. Khan began to explain his backstory as he introduced Doyle. It's a bit boring, but do you want to listen? Open hollow corner bracket. Yeah. I like stories like this. Thinking that Nike was the type of child old-timers would like, Khan continued. Khan was 14 when he first met Doyle. At the time, things were cold between Khan and his father, Iron Lion. He coincidentally met a ranker called Red Skull, who came as a customer. Doyle was a 10-year-old child who tagged along. Open hollow corner bracket. Red Skull. This really dark, old guy. He's the third bishop. Open hollow corner bracket. Nike was greatly surprised. That meant that he had given his son to the head bishop. Did that make sense? It does. To those lunatics, they probably think it's nothing to sell their children to gain their god's favor. Open hollow corner bracket. No way. Nike, who only had good memories of his mother, couldn't believe it. You can't attempt to understand this world with logic. Khan's voice was cynical. Khan, who was furious at his father, and Doyle, who was disgusted by his family. It wouldn't be a mere coincidence that the two met and created a plan in the span of a few hours to work together. And the two children left a short note saying not to look for them and left. Not much, huh? Khan laughed, but Nike shook his head. No, Khan felt like he did. Open hollow corner bracket. It's like looking at me and Master. You too. Open hollow corner bracket. Yeah. Khan felt strange. Open hollow corner bracket. We went through something similar. And Khan, you're like Master. Me, and him, nah, how can you compare me to such a dry human? Am I not a bit more good-looking, though? Khan made a light joke. Open hollow corner bracket. No. You're similar. Very. Nike spoke firmly. Open hollow corner bracket. Master is the same as you. Wanting to save his little brother. I'm jealous. I wasn't able to save my older brothers. Khan stopped walking. Open hollow corner bracket. What? Open hollow corner bracket. Why did you suddenly stop? The bishops behind Khan frowned, but Khan didn't hear them. A shiver went down his spine. What are you talking about? Open hollow corner bracket. Me? No, Kane. Khan's voice was low. He had a little brother. Open hollow corner bracket. Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about this. Nike hesitated for a bit, then began to explain Yin-Woo's situation, leaving the important parts out. A little brother who was trapped somewhere. Yin-Woo's lonely journey to Tartarus. A clue about his brother's whereabouts and what Yin-Woo did to gain it. Open hollow corner bracket. That's why Master came here. To find you after getting that letter. Single quote exclamation mark single quote. Khan's body trembled. He felt like he had been hammered in the head. Yin-Woo came to save his little brother. That guy, that moment, images of what he had been through with Yin-Woo flashed through his head. Sometimes, I'm jealous of you guys. In the tutorial, Yin-Woo looked at Doyle and himself with longing eyes. His face was covered by a mask, but his eyes were filled with gloom. In the 5 mountains, Yin-Woo expressed his pity for his separation from Doyle. Then, Yin-Woo had said that he could tell him anything. He hadn't known at the time. He just thought Yin-Woo must have had something going on, too. He never explained his personal business. His mouth was always closed. However, what kind of emotions were in his eyes when he looked at them? Grief, pain, whatever it was deeper than what he had thought. And, everything would have been painful to Yin-Woo. But, I forced the guy who barely found a clue about his brother to come here. They had similar goals. His shock turned into guilt. The guilt drenched his body, drowning him. It turned into self-hatred. He looked down at his hands. He couldn't see them because his sight was gone, but his two hands were shaking. What have I done? Open hollow corner bracket. Why are you like this? In Yi and Wu's memory, the Monkey King's shedding was a confident and proud being. The aura he exuded wouldn't fall short of Hermes's. But right now, his bloodied existence felt faint. What had happened, and what were those chains around him? I don't know. Don't ask. But he still had his pride, so he whipped his head and grumbled. A thought occurred to Yi and Wu while he was looking at him. In this condition, he looked down at his left hand. Would Batory's vampiric sword work? Chapter 337 Descendants of the Monkey King 12. Team HH, Yahiko, Thursdays 5/10. What's up with that look? Do you wanna die? The Monkey King's shedding frowned and growled. Yi and Wu flinched because he knew that he had been thinking about something ridiculous, but since the Monkey King hadn't read his mind, he decided to be shameless. Open hollow corner bracket. I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Geez, all these bastards left and right. They only have thoughts of betrayal. Phew. The shedding sighed, extremely annoyed. Open hollow corner bracket. How did you end up like this? I know, right, it's so embarrassing. Why I am. Wait. Hey, let's talk later. Yi and Wu was about to ask why, but he felt something approaching them and quickly hid his presence behind a column. Soon, someone walked into the cave. Yi and Wu's eyes widened when he realized who it was. Kindred, the second bishop of the Devil Army, grinned mischievously like a child as he spoke. I came to greet you today as well, other face of the heavenly demon. How have you been, sir? Did you sleep well? I would feel better if I didn't have to see your face. Oh, dear, that's a shame. I want to help with that, but the people who can come here to serve you are limited. That's why I said I don't need any of that, so untie me right now. The Monkey King lifted up the chains that bound his arms and legs. They made a clacking sound as the chains connected to the wall extended and fell back down on the ground again. You said I'm one of the gods you serve. Then how can you treat a god like this? I would like to help you with that as well. Kindred raised a corner of his mouth. But won't you try to kill me then? No, why would I kill you? Really, of course, I won't just kill you. I'll rip you apart. The shedding's eyes turned sharp. Walk, an intense, murderous aura settled upon them. It was a fighting spirit fitting of a trace of the heavenly demon. Sweat beaded on Kindred's forehead, but he didn't lose his smile. See, I don't have any other way if I want to live. Please wait just a little more. Nothing will change anyway. Nothing will change. Yes, sir, can't you just think you're moving houses? I should definitely rip your mouth apart first. I apologize if I said anything to infuriate you. Kindred politely bowed, and I want to break that head. All that came in return was the Monkey King's murderous aura and smirk. However, it didn't matter to Kindred. From when he had caused the Monkey King's shedding to end up like this, no, from when he had refused to be served during their first meeting, Kindred had expected this. Being disliked by the god you served was dejecting, but it wasn't enough to bend Kindred's lunatic faith. Then you won't change your mind even now? I already said so, but if I leave here, there's only one reason why I would. The shedding grinned. To rip your mouth. Kindred frowned. In the end, he couldn't convince the shedding. It seemed he would have to forcefully progress with things now. The ceremony will start soon. We'll do our best not to make you uncomfortable, but things may be hard for a bit, so please prepare for it. He disappeared into smoke after he finished talking. Dum, dum, dum. The world began to tremble. It shook up and down as the sound of a bell ringing in a temple steadily descended upon them. As the shaking became worse, the space began to crack. Open hollow corner bracket. What is? Yi and Wu came out from behind the column. What do you think it is? Those damned bastards began the ceremony. Psychos. They don't care about what the god they serve thinks, and they're talking about honor. Bulls asterisk. Annoyance was on the Monkey King's shedding's face. The crumpled space became whole again. He was probably fighting against the forces from the outside that were trying to seal the imaginary world. Yi and Wu thought that the Devil Army was going to win this fight. Open hollow corner bracket. When I first heard the Devil Army was creating a sacrificial vessel, I thought you were in on it. Me, why would I be? The shedding snorted. Let me just tell you this. The kiddo, the one they call the heavenly demon, never wanted that. He's worse than me, so he doesn't like noisy things like this. Yi and Wu remembered what he heard about the heavenly demon having thrown the Devil Army away a long time ago. It was a long time ago when the heavenly demon fell into a deep slumber. It was when the head bishop replaced all 9 of the bishop spots after Black Dawn's fall. It's a truth that only a few people know, but the current bishops of the devil army are only halves that aren't permitted the heavenly demon's authority. No, to be exact, cursed halves. All they could do was borrow the strength of the heavenly demon from his other bodies using an artifact. There was information about the devil army in the diary. Yi and Wu learned the artifact they used was the Ruyi Bang some time ago. And the current head bishop who got rid of the previous head bishop and the other bishops is a real monster. There was a hierarchy within the 9 kings. Obviously, the martial king and the summer queen were at the top. The one who was considered to be near their level was the head bishop. And if the head bishop was given permission to use the authority, no one knew what would happen. This was the reason why the devil army had caused this situation. If they could awaken the Monkey King through his shedding, they would be able to gain an authority indirectly. And if he changes his body, he can cleanse himself of the curse. The current head bishop was cursed by the heavenly demon. But if he moved into a new body, that would change. That was why Doyle was needed. The reason why Kindred had tried to take Sesha in the past was to provide a potential candidate for the head bishop. Moreover, that was why he had appeared in the fight against Walpurgisnacht to obtain the Philosopher's Stone. Yi and Wu wanted to mess this up for them. They always interfered with whatever he was doing, so in the end, there was nothing he could do but fight. Open hollow corner bracket. Why are you like this? Can't you see? I was caught by the damn thing. Yi and Wu looked closely at the chains around the shedding. Realizing what it was, his eyes widened. It was a metal he knew too well. Open hollow corner bracket. Is this divine iron? Yeah, to be exact, it's the golden headband. Open hollow corner bracket. The golden headband. It was the divine artifact that was placed on the Monkey King's head to stop him from wrecking chaos. He had taken off the headband after finishing everything the heavenly world assigned to him, but if the devil army had forced it back on. They even used the golden headband. Shit, I couldn't do anything. It meant the devil army had caught the Monkey King's shedding after a lot of preparation. It could seem impossible for such a powerful being to be caught, but there were probably limits to what he could do because he was in the imaginary world. And Shang, that guy was flicked out too. F***. Yi and Wu didn't know exactly why, but it seemed the dragon god couldn't get into this world anymore. Anyways, why are you here? I saw you were causing a ruckus outside. Did you come to do the same here? Open hollow corner bracket. You knew. Hey, this is my palace. If I don't know what's happening in my own front yard, I'd be a stupid not a human. The shedding flicked his finger. Then, the space in front of Yi and Wu wavered, and different scenes appeared. How are you? The toy, who's copying me, only amounts to that much. Dr. Doom seemed out of it because of the continuous magic attacks that Boo was shooting at him. Most of his magic circles were cracked, and his artifacts were broken. The magicians that he brought were already slaughtered by the skeletons. In a moment, the strongest of the magic tower were dead, and as their souls were absorbed by Yi and Wu, their knowledge was naturally absorbed by Boo. How can a person like you serve a mere human? What happened to you? It seemed Dr. Doom had realized Boo's identity. He was shouting as he vomited blood. Faust. The scene changed. A bone dragon and death nobles. What are these? Cain, don't hide cowardly and come out. Give me my son. Ivan shouted with a crumpled face. But his hands were tied by Shannon's consecutive attacks, and his feet were tied by the poison breath the bone dragon was emitting from above. He was trying to endure the attacks, as if proving why he was called Lion of the Battlefield. The more he did, the more intense Shannon's attacks became. The bone dragon wasn't able to show its full power because it was incomplete, so he had to be more active. Then, Shannon suddenly fell back. It was because someone appeared from the darkness. Ivan frowned, not knowing what kind of tricks the new enemy had up his sleeves. It's been a while, father. His face hardened seeing his son's face. You have an interesting technique. It's a bit familiar, but he definitely died. No, is this the way you look like after you've died? Are you? In the next scene, Faceless and Hanryong were in the middle of an intense battle. Faceless fought with the bandages like Faceless always did and tilted their head feeling something was wrong. Hanryong also felt something strange from Faceless while he was swinging his 9 swords around. Hoo-hoo, I didn't think I'd meet you here, my dear friend. Suddenly, Faceless burst out laughing. It was an indifferent but chilling voice. It was a voice that no one had heard before. At the same time, the air around Faceless changed. As if Faceless was a different person, the hidden figure appeared. The bandages around Faceless became sharper. Faceless looked free-spirited all this time, but during this moment, Faceless looked like a true swordsman. Ivan wouldn't be able to follow either. Kwang, Hanryong shouted while pushing against the attacks. Faceless's body. No, you swallowed him. Other scenes flashed by. The undead army, stepping on the pursuing forces. The monster portents continued to power up as they swallowed the souls. With the limits of the Black King released, they began to grow again. There was also Victoria and the Ice King protecting Yianwu's body. The scene ended there. Yianwu nodded, thinking there was no point in hiding what he was doing. Open hollow corner bracket yes. Like you said, I've come to cause ruckus here, too. The Monkey King snorted, flabbergasted. I felt this before, but you're like that kiddo when it comes to creating incidents. And your personality, too. He added that there wouldn't be a boring moment here while he was tied up thanks to Yianwu. So how are you gonna cause a ruckus? I might seem like I'm relaxed right now, but I'm bloody tired. Open hollow corner bracket I'll serve the Monkey King, from now on. The shedding's mouth curved wider. You're saying that you'll be like them? Dumb. The world shook again. It meant the ceremony was still progressing quickly. 0 hours 4 minutes and 21 seconds _36. There wasn't much time left for Yianwu. Taking into consideration the time it took to return to his body, he had less than 3 minutes left. Open hollow corner bracket I won't deny it. But I'll be better than them. Based on what? Open hollow corner bracket you know what they're after, don't you? Quote. Open hollow corner bracket they'll try to swallow the Monkey King as well and become another face of the heavenly demon. The reason why the devil army needed the Philosopher's Stone. They tried to excuse themselves saying it was to serve the Monkey King, but there was no need to tie up the shedding here. Their true goal was something else. Swallowing the Monkey King's shedding successfully. The head bishop was planning on becoming a new divine being. The Monkey King's shedding frowned, already knowing that was the plan. So you want me to become your hunting dog? I don't want to. Even so, the Monkey King didn't want to give himself easily to Yianwu. He was looking at the despair and grief of the Black King. The bindings of the Black King. Do you think I don't know what it is? Open hollow corner bracket. This time, Yianwu closed his mouth. Actually, his plan was to bind the Monkey King's shedding to the cast before the devil army could do anything, like he had to the Cyclops. But the Monkey King wasn't as easy to persuade as they were. Cuckoo. The shakings of the world became severe. The cracks in the space opened up. The world would soon disappear at this rate. 0 hours 2 minutes and 56 seconds _08. What should I do? Yianwu contemplated deeply. The shedding didn't seem like it was going to fall for his persuasion. Then did he have to force him? But even though he had fallen, he was still a divine being. It was hard to do it without his consent. Then did he have to use the Batory's vampiric sword? He didn't know if his skill would work properly because of the shedding situation. Then let's do this. The shedding broke the silence again. Yianwu paid careful attention to words. Open hollow corner bracket how? Just swallow me. It was unexpected. Yianwu's eyes widened. Open hollow corner bracket but then. I'll disappear. Of course. The shedding's eyes were sharper than ever. I don't want to be pulled away like a cow dragged to the slaughterhouse. I'll make my own destiny. I'll choose. The monkey born receiving the vitality of the sun and the moon. He was born a king, and he gained a divine level after overcoming many obstacles. Destiny was only something for him to destroy. So, he was planning on doing the same now. I'll choose where I'll die. It's an additional life I'm living right now anyway. I won't feel wronged if I die. Yianwu felt himself become overwhelmed by the shedding's power. Was this the true appearance of a real king and god? He suddenly wanted to be like the Monkey King. However, I have 2 conditions. The Monkey King raised 2 fingers. Open hollow corner bracket go ahead, sir. First, step on those sons of B********* who made me like this. Open hollow corner bracket I will. Yianwu nodded. He was planning on doing that even if he didn't ask. Second, wake me up later. Open hollow corner bracket but. Yes, you might think it's impossible because my existence will disappear. I said I wouldn't feel wronged if I died, but if I can, I still want to live a bit longer. So think about it well. There are still some ways to resummon me. Yianwu thought of the additional option in the cast of the Black King. Summons of the dead. It said only the dead could be summoned, but what if there was a way to get around that? How about it? Can you do it? Open hollow corner bracket. Yes, sir. That mouth of yours. The Monkey King's shedding laughed for the first time. Then, in an arrogant manner, he spread his arms apart and spoke. Fine, swallow. Open hollow corner bracket. Thank you for everything. Yi and Wu bowed. You say that like we'll never see each other again. A smile spread on the shedding's face. Yi and Wu approached him with his right hand. Sharp teeth appeared on his palm. Clack, clack, Batory's vampiric sword has been released.